Hey, and welcome to KMVT's 2014 local election coverage. We're here live here at the KMVT studios here in Mountain View. I'm one of your hosts tonight, Jim too, and with me is my co-host is Claudia Cruz, former Mountain View Patch reporter. Claudia, you looking forward to tonight?
I am very excited to see the election results, to talk to candidates and people, residents of Mountain View about what they think their future community, not just Mountain View, but Los Altos and Cupertino, and see what the future holds for these communities. Yeah. So for you tonight, we'll have local election results as they come in. In addition, we'll have interviews with some of the candidates as well as some of the local Mountain View politicians who may not be running this time, but still would like to have a say in these things. We'll also have some live roving man on the street interviews with Christiana State and Jim Connor. And so we have a lot in store for tonight, and we have a rollicking 4-hour ride. But he's fun to work with, so it's going to be a very fun 4 hours.
Is that true? Okay. But yeah, I mean, so we've had this election season. I assume you've had a ton of mailers, right, Claudia? What has your take been on the election so far?
I think that this is Silicon Valley, and we might have to stop doing mailers.
Okay.
So way too many mailers. But I appreciate it. I did get to learn a lot about the candidates and who they were before they became candidates.
Yeah. So, I mean, was there any particular races that you were looking out for, or just
Well, I'm a Mountain View resident, so 9 city council members for 3 city council spots. It's a very hard choice to make.
Yeah. Did any of them knock on your door?
I live in an apartment complex. I think it's considered soliciting, so they didn't.
Well, that's what politicians do, solicit, right?
They do solicit votes. No, I actually didn't know until this morning who I was going to vote for.
Okay. Did you get to meet any in person?
Yes. I came to city council debate, and then I was able to ask some questions of them here at the KMVT studio. So that's how I get involved with the city council.
Well, you originally are from New York. How does Mountain View politics compare to New York City?
Very different. We have our council members are by district, not at large like they are here. It's their full-time job, not like it is here. I know that Measure A is on the ballot about raising the city council salaries, and in New York, that is their salary. It's exactly everything they do is to help their residents. Here it's a little different, so we'll see how Measure A pans out as well.
All right, but did you ever get to meet your city council members when you were in New York?
I definitely did, because they attended a lot of events where we were, they were always there.
Did any of them knock on your door?
Actually, yes, they did. I think New York laws are a little different about soliciting.
Oh, okay. Is that a good thing or a bad thing?
Well, you don't always have to open your door.
All right. Hey, well, we got our first man on the street interview with Christiana State. Christiana, man on the street interview, to you.
I'm Christiana State with KMVT in Mountain View. We're here in front of the City Hall in Mountain View, and I'm here with Leland. Hello.
Hello.
How are you today?
Very good. Yourself?
Pretty good. How was your voting experience today?
Fine. Smooth as silk.
Did you vote? Did you bring your vote by mail and just deposit it here?
That's correct.
That seems to be the typical way of doing things these days. So I want to ask you, what are the most important issues for you during this election?
Well, speaking for myself, quite frankly, there's an existential threat. It is real. It is immediate. It's in our faces. And that is global warming. And we cannot escape it or deny it. It doesn't respect anybody's political affiliation. It doesn't respect faith. It doesn't respect income. It doesn't respect anything. It's after all of us. Now, we can choose to address it, or we can act like the apocryphal ostrich and stick our head in the sand. But as a California native, I can say that I've never seen a drought like this. And I've been through the one in the 70s when they were rationing water, and I remember as a boy, the local sheriff's department was enforcing that water usage, among other ways, with a helicopter, actually patrolling the neighborhood in San Mateo County. And
did you welcome Prop 1 then?
Yes, after fashion. I was a little torn, looking into Prop 1, hearing the arguments for and against, and understanding just how important water is. Water is life, if you don't mind my stealing an old line from a sci-fi book, but it is truth. And water is what makes California what it is. We are an agricultural state, and we are a desert state. So it's a tough balance.
Do you have faith in the California government to really make good use of the $7.5 billion for water restructuring?
I have faith in our system. I have faith in our democratic institutions, and I have faith in the people, my fellow citizens. It's very simple, ma'am. I've studied history all my life. If there's one lesson about democracy, it's that if you don't vote, you can't speak. You have no voice. You cannot complain. Voting matters. And if you think voting doesn't matter, then please tell that to the ghosts of the abolitionists and the civil rights movement. You can tell it to the ghosts of Americans who have died for our right to vote. I mean, it's a simple truth. If you don't vote, my dad would have said, you can't complain. So I have faith that if enough of us speak out, if enough of us get informed on the issues, if enough of us take, for example, sensible water use and preservation of our environment seriously, then yes.
What do you think about the concerns that the billions allocated for this Prop 1, it's really going to help with construction of dams, that maybe it's not really going to improve the water dissemination in this state?
Well, yes, again, yes and no. How do we use water? How is water being used by the end users? That's as important as yay or nay to a dam. Again, I was torn by the decision to vote in favor of one. It was not an easy choice, and I may be wrong. I could have been wrong. That said, time will tell. But for the moment, it's more than just building dams. And so, once again, you know, our strength in California, what makes us one of the largest economies on earth, is the fact that we've pretty much feed this country. And that is not something, so that is really a national resource. California is actually part of a larger whole. We don't exist in a microcosm. So considerations like that, that's something I tend to think of on a macro level, not just California for the Californians.
All right. Well, thank you so much for your time today. We really appreciate it. Christiana State with KMVT.
Thank you, ma'am.
Hi, this is Claudia Cruz. I'm here with Mountain View City Council candidate Ellen Kamei.
Yes.
Welcome
Great,
to the
thank
KMVT
you.
studios.
Appreciate it.
Tell me, what time did you vote today?
I actually vote by mail, so I like to make sure that I drop off my ballot early. I've been a registered voter since I was 18 and have been voting by mail ever since, so drop mine off at the county building.
Great. So,
Yeah.
so then today, what did you do on your last day of candidacy?
So we've done a lot of outreach to residents and to the community. So we were just trying to make sure that everyone who had said that they would support us, if they needed a ride or if they needed their ballot in, that we were available if they needed that, and make sure that they got to the polls. So,
How have you changed since the beginning you started campaigning till today? How have you grown, or who's the new Ellen Kamei?
I think it's it's been 5 months, and in my role at Planning Commission, we're in front of residents often, but it's totally different when you are in front of cameras, when there's lights, when you know that you're going to be getting news coverage. So I think it's trying to a little bit come out of my shell. I think I'm a little shy, and trying to make sure that I'm able to express my point of view and what I think is important for the city, and getting comfortable with that. So I think that's how I've changed.
What have you learned about Mountain View and its citizens in the 5 months you've been campaigning?
I think it's just kind of built. So on Planning Commission, we see how much residents care, and with campaigning, you see how much they care even more. When you have those personal conversations with people, there's a lot of concerns that residents have, and they want to be able to talk to you and express it to you and make sure their point of view is being heard. So I think, if anything, it's that people love Mountain View even more than I realized, which is such a great feeling to know that they care so much.
That's great. And if elected councilwoman, what kind of council would you like to see going forward? Like, what kind of characteristics of the people that you are going to work with to set city policy what are you looking for, like in your co-council members?
Sure. For myself, I really like to be a team player, and I know that that might make me kind of in the middle, and that's because I want to see everyone's point of view. Because when you're making your decisions, you're trying to educate yourself on the issues, hear from residents, visit the site maybe of a proposed project, or and try to get all of that so you can make the best informed decision as possible. So, I think it's having the open mind that maybe we might differ in how we get to a solution, but knowing that we're all trying to do the best for Mountain View and the best for residents.
Is there something you would have done differently? I sound like I'm interviewing you for a job. Is there something you would have done differently or just better? And again, we won't know until the polls close, until the results start coming in. But maybe a little bit more that you, maybe in the back of your head, you're like, oh, if I had only done this type of mail or this type of email, what would you have done differently?
I think that your vote, it's your voice, right? And it's such a personal decision. And I've tried to talk to as many residents as possible. And if anything, I just want to be able to talk to more. When we had our forums, it's 60 seconds, and sometimes that question is long or really complicated. So wanting to maybe flesh out an answer a little bit more so people can get a fuller picture of how you feel. But you try your best. We've done the 9 forums, we've knocked on doors, we've called voters. So hopefully residents feel like they have a sense.
The last time I saw you was at the City Council debate here in Mountain View, and I met your family.
Right.
How important were they for you as a support system during these 5 months?
Family is the most important thing. It's actually what brought me back to Mountain View. When my grandparents both were sick, after graduate school I moved back, and it's that connection and those roots that have brought me. And though my grandparents have passed since I moved back, I still feel really connected, and it's because their love of the city has really been rooted in me. And so, my family has been everything, and I think I'm very lucky.
And maybe one last question.
Sure.
If people haven't voted yet, should they vote for you?
Yes, please.
Well, thank you so much. This is Ellen Kameh here at KMVT. And, we're going now to the streets and to actually Jim at the polls. Thank you very much. Thank you, Ellen.
Hi, this is Jim Connor with KMVT Television in Mountain View. We're here in Los Altos with Sally Meadows. Sally's just completed voting, and she's been kind enough to agree to give us a few perspectives on her day today. Sally, nice to meet you. How was voting today?
Very painless, as it always is. They do a good job. It's nice that they volunteer for us.
Do you have any issues of importance or priority for yourself?
Well, I'm passionate about the community. I'm very involved in Los Altos, actually Los Altos and Mountain View both, so I think it's my responsibility to come and cast my vote and make sure that we get the people who are best suited to represent us. So I did vote for those that I believe are able to do that.
Is it fair to say you spent more time in the local election than you did on the statewide election?
Very fair, except for those propositions. They take some studying.
They do. The propositions were fairly complicated this year, I thought. It took me quite a while. Any other priorities in your life here within the city of Los Altos or Mountain View? It's kind of one community.
Yes, it is, and Los Altos Hills.
Oh, yes, of course.
Well, I think we're fortunate that we have a great group of talented people, many of whom have chosen to run for many offices. I know actually 3 of the people running for the council seats. So, but I didn't limit myself to, I considered all 5 to be objective. But we're fortunate really that everyone here is so well educated and willing to not only spend professional time, but their personal time in helping the community. I'm passionate about education as well.
Well, thank you very much, Sally. We very much appreciate your time tonight, and wish you every success in the future.
All right, you too. Thank you. Good evening.
Good evening. It's Jim Connor, KMVT Television.
Thank you very much, and we're back here at KMVT for the live coverage, and with me is candidate for El Camino Health District, Margaret Abekoga. Margaret, thank you very much for coming down and joining us tonight.
Well, thank you for having me. It's always great to be here at KMVT.
All right, now for those who aren't necessarily familiar with all the intricate positions that you can run for, what does the El Camino Health Hospital District do?
So it's El Camino Healthcare District, And the healthcare district was formed back in the 50s when there was no El Camino hospital. So the purpose was originally to build the hospital. And then once it was built, has been basically in charge of maintaining it. It's a little complicated now. There's actually two boards. There's the healthcare district that I'm running for, and then the hospital is now run by a nonprofit hospital corporation. But if I'm elected to the district board, I will also get to serve on the hospital corporation board.
All right. So then, you've served as Mountain View City Council. So why did you run for this particular office as opposed to something else?
Well, so healthcare is something that's been very personal, a personal interest to me. I grew up, we didn't have a lot when I was growing up, and my parents basically couldn't afford health care. So my dad had a lot of illnesses, and I saw the effects when you don't have access to health care, what that can do to you. And so I've always been very passionate that everybody has a chance to get access to quality health care. So that's just been a passion of mine for a long time. I now work at a nonprofit healthcare organization. It's called Asian Americans for Community Involvement. So we run a health care clinic and several different services for the mostly immigrant community. And then I serve on a board right now, a commission that's part of my council work called LAFCO, and it's an oversight committee. And we are in charge of overseeing these special districts, including the healthcare district. Okay. And so that's what I learned.
If you get elected, what's the most important challenge or thing that you're going to want to do if you get elected? The one thing.
Is to make sure that El Camino Hospital, which is a well-loved hospital, continues to stay as an independent community hospital. And I'd say there's two things. There's that, and there's also, with healthcare reform, I see a lot of opportunity to really open up access to healthcare, to health and wellness, getting out into the community and really educating and focusing on prevention so folks don't have to go to the hospital.
Okay, well that's interesting. So now I'm going to play devil's advocate.
Sure.
I mean, what's the worst that could possibly happen if you don't get elected?
Well, so my focus has really been about bringing the community focus, going out, doing outreach into the community. I think, the hospital's done a great job, but with healthcare reform, it's really about getting into the community, the grassroots effort. And I feel that my work on the city council has given me the opportunity to really get to know the community, know the folks who need the care, need the help, need the care. And I really want to make that connection.
Okay. So basically, if you don't get elected, you're afraid that the communication with the community, with the hospital, isn't going to be what it should be, and there won't be as much emphasis on preventative care and wellness?
Yes, there's that. The other part of it is that we go back to the oversight committee that I'm on, was that there were some recommendations that my commission made to make it more transparent and accountable to the community. I think that's really important, especially with these elected jobs. We are elected by the people, right. So we need to be accountable to the people. And in the past, that's not always been clear as to how things were working, how the money was being spent, and I want to make sure that that is clear.
Do you see that as the biggest challenge for the health district?
I think that's one of them. I think the bigger challenge is that the healthcare industry is becoming more competitive, and so to be able to maintain its niche is really probably the bigger challenge.
So do you see? So you still foresee the hospital still being run by a nonprofit for the foreseeable future?
I think that's what this community has wanted. That you get to go to the hospital, you have a choice, and the doctors who are there, and I definitely feel like the community values that. So I'm committed to maintaining that.
All right. So let's see here. So this is not your first election that you've run for, right?
No, this is actually my fifth election. I was counting back.
All right. When you look back on it, what have you learned from running from 5 different elections?
I have a real faith in the voters. I think especially our community, very well informed, well educated, they care. I think it's important to get out into the community. I've walked precincts every time, covered the entire city. I have a bigger district now. I've covered, I'd say, maybe 2/3 or 75% of it this time around. And people really appreciate that, and I appreciate them. It's just been fun. I
I'm sure
love
you
doing
love
it.
meeting people. Love running for elections and meeting people?
Campaigning is hard. It's a lot of work. It's stressful. So I wouldn't say it's my first love. I prefer to serve more than campaign, but it's part of the process, so I've got to go through it.
Hey, Margaret, thank you very much for doing the interview.
Thanks so much for having me.
All right, so back to you.
I'm Christiana State with KMVT in Mountain View. We're in front of the town hall in Mountain View, and I'm here with Tom. Hello.
Hi.
How are you doing today?
I'm doing great.
How was your voting experience today?
Well, I did the mail-in ballot, and so I was already prepared. It was all done before I came in. I just wanted to drop it off.
Okay. It looks a little bit sleepy in the afternoon. I think the morning was busier, but it wasn't very crowded inside, was it?
Not at all. There was maybe 5 people in front of me.
Great. Well, what was the most interesting initiative for you personally?
Well, I think it's going to be very interesting to see what's going to happen with the Democrats and with the Republicans, and who's going to take the houses, and the House and the Senate. I think that's a big issue. That wasn't as much an issue here in Mountain View. I think the other thing is I think it's pretty much solid for the governor, but it'll be interesting to see what happens with the water, whether they pass that, and with the budget.
What did you think about the prop on the water and devoting $7.5 billion to restructuring sort of the way we're doing water in the state?
I think it's necessary. I mean, we've had a drought for so long, and people will only save if they are told to, and they have to.
So it seems that you are supporting that measure.
Absolutely.
How about the testing doctors for drug use? What do you think about that measure?
If somebody's my doctor and they're not willing to be tested, I have questions about that. Absolutely, they should test them.
Have you followed any city council races at all?
Not so much. Not so much. I mean, I'm a teacher in the district in Mountain View, so I do follow what's going on with education, but not so much the city council. There's a few people that I'm pretty much confident to support. So
there is a measure that is about the reducing the sentencing, and the money that would be saved in the state of California would be used for some educational measures. I surmise, given your position, that you would support that as well.
That was kind of a toss-up for me. I wasn't so sure because sometimes it works out with these other programs. And we talk about saving money, but how soon do we want people back out on the streets? And are they really being, changed in prison? I kind of doubt that. So because of that, that's why I supported that measure.
Any other issues or themes that you wish that would surface in the ballots, but they have not yet?
Not that I can think of. I mean, right now, this is kind of an off season for voting, so and you expect that there's going to be low turnout. But there wasn't anything specific that I wanted to see passed.
All right. Well, thank you so much for your time. Christiana State with KMVT.
I am here with Mr. Joseph Midian, County Supervisor. Welcome to the KMVT studios.
Good to be with you.
You told me you did something very interesting today that was also a civic duty. What did you have to do today?
Well, actually, this is a day of 3 civic duties because I had a board meeting this morning at 9 o'clock, Board of Supervisors meeting. Then, a little after 11, I got word that I was, in fact, called for jury duty, so I had to be at the North County Courthouse at 1 o'clock this afternoon. And then, of course, after sitting in for jury duty, I had to go vote. So it was a trifecta, three civic duties in the course of a single day, and I got to go back for jury duty tomorrow. So we'll see what happens then.
Well, everybody should take advantage of the privileges we have as citizens and vote and serve on jury duty and maybe run for public office. Tell me, this is a non-election year for you. So how have you kept busy
Well, I have 8 different cities in the supervisorial district that I represent, and I have to say there have been lively races in almost all of them. And most years we think, well, there'll be 1 or 2 contested seats, an extra candidate or 2, maybe a contest. But we've got lively races in almost all of the cities and school districts that I represent. So, here in Mountain View, of course, you've got 9 candidates for 3 seats, and a lot of them, most of them, are serious competitors for those 3 seats. In Palo Alto, we've got 5 seats that are up, and we've got 12 candidates there. Over in Saratoga, again, 3 seats, but 5 candidates and a lively race. So whether it's the cities or the school districts, this is not a quiet year, certainly not on the local front, and that's before you get to the ballot measures and, as I say, the school board measures.
What do you think is the biggest challenge for the county moving forward, and some of these city council members are going to have to deal with, or hospital district or water board?
Well, I've really been struck. I do sidewalk office hours where I meet with my constituents at the farmers market, and people in Mountain View very much take advantage of them. And it has been interesting to me how the conversations I've had there have been playing out in the Mountain View City Council race. So literally my first few sidewalk office hours at the farmers market in Mountain View, same conversation. Somebody saying, I'm tired of all the development. Somebody else saying, we need more affordable housing. Sometimes it's the same person saying, I'm tired of all the development and we need more affordable housing. And so it's a very interesting and challenging conversation, and it's one that I'm seeing play out in city council races up and down the peninsula and in the South Bay.
So the issues in Mountain View are analogous to Cupertino?
Well, they are, and in Palo Alto, right next door, you've got a big debate about development pressure, and whether or not the quality of life is being compromised there by virtue of the development now that the recession has started to recede pretty clearly. Same story in Menlo Park, just to the north in San Mateo County. 3 incumbents running with 3 spirited challengers, giving them all a real run for their money. And again, it's largely about development issues and development pressures. We see that there with something called Measure M that's hotly contested there. So it's I think part of it is the good news, bad news of the fact that the recession is pretty well behind us here in Silicon Valley, and that's good news in so many ways. But the bad news is that means people are seeing more aggravation from development, more aggravation from traffic, and that the cost of living is going up, up, up for people of modest means, which is what I hear about here in Mountain View so much. People tell me, look, I've lived here my whole life, I'm a middle-class person, but I just can't make the rent anymore.
When I first moved to Silicon Valley, people would tell me, you can gauge the economy by how much traffic there is on 101.
That's right.
If there's no traffic, there's no jobs.
That's right. And it's we tend to think of the housing issue as sort of somebody else's issue, but it has an awful lot to do with what the quality of life for local residents is, what the traffic scene is like, whether or not there's adequate housing for economic development and growth as people are seeking to bring talented new people into the area. It's even a public safety issue. I sometimes joke that the safest place to be the next time we have an earthquake is going to be Tracy, because as far as I can tell, every cop, firefighter, nurse, and PG&E lineman I know lives in Tracy. So it's a tough issue because not everyone who should be at the table to be part of the conversation is there. And as I say, it cuts both ways. You got folks saying, hey, we need to increase the housing stock. Others say, well, that's great, but how can I be sure it's an affordable housing stock and it's going to benefit those of us who are struggling to stay in town?
Well, you also talk about some measures. Measure N in Los Altos is trying to bring more money. They've had 1,000+ students in the school district over a 12-year span, but it's still a burden for the school district. What do you think about the tax measures, the bond measures to try to bring more money into schools? Or
I think a lot of folks thought that when Governor Brown was successful in restructuring our state education funding, that was the answer to the problem. And really there were 3 problems that he tackled, and 2 of the 3 I think got pretty well resolved, but there's still one big one out there. Was the existing system fair, transparent, and adequate? No, no, and no. So we've got a new system in place at the statewide level. It is, I think, fairer. I think it is far more transparent, easy for folks to understand. But is it adequate at this point? I would say not. And so you've got local school districts who are now saying, hey, great that we've got a new system in place, great that people can finally understand it a little bit better, but we still don't have the resources we need to get the job done. Same story on school bonds. Ask yourself, how long has it been since we had a statewide school bond measure? And the governor resisted that this year. He didn't want that to get in the way of some other ballot measures, and he didn't want that to get in the way of his own campaign. So it's been a long time, and local districts are finally saying, if we want it done, we're going to have to do it ourselves. Let's put a bond measure on the ballot locally.
So, I mean, Prop 2, I believe.
The Rainy Day Reserve Fund, yeah.
That also could impact the schools if there's money in the reserve fund for the schools. Is that not an opportunity to create funding for schools?
I think Prop 2 is sort of a good news, bad news. I think the good news is we really do need a rainy day reserve fund at the state level. We need to sort of smooth out our situation so that we don't have these peaks and valleys and the ups and downs that we've had. The real controversy there was that at the last minute there was a provision added in that said local school districts, you have to limit the amount of your reserves. And that makes a lot of local school folks uneasy, and I think understandably so. So, ultimately I came down on the side of Proposition 2. I voted for Proposition 2. I think we need that rainy day reserve fund. I personally would have liked it better had we not had that limitation on reserve funds from district to district. I think, frankly, we ought to be saying good for you to the districts that want to tuck a little extra away.
It's definitely a very heated issue, the funding for the schools. I know that California's ranking has dropped nationally, and people are very worried. But in Silicon Valley, people continue to move here. They're still great schools. So
that's right.
At the county level, what are you looking at as far as funding for schools?
At the county, we really don't do public education. That's over at the county office of education. But clearly we're looking at the national healthcare scene. We are the implementers of the Affordable Care Act.
Okay.
And we had, in spite of the national challenges and even a few at the state level, we had a good first year. The number of folks who finally have health insurance is way up. The number of folks who have Medi-Cal, which is our state-based system for Medicaid, that number is way up. It means more and more folks are actually going to be able to find a doctor, go to a primary care doc, get the kind of preventative care that we'd like them to have, rather than show up at the emergency room hospital, which, number one, is no way to handle your own health care needs, but number two, very expensive for you and me as taxpayers, because if we're picking up the tab for emergency room care, rather than keeping people healthy at a primary care level, that's just not a good system at all. So I think it's been a plus for Santa Clara County.
I believe you endorsed Margaret Abikoga for hospital district.
I did.
What do you think of her?
Well, I think this is a case where somebody, and again, my personal judgment, I think Margaret has proven her bona fides here on the local council level. I think that's given people a chance to see what kind of a decision maker she is. And I think what she said is, I want to keep serving. There's another venue in which I can do that, a place where she has real interest and expertise based on her background. So I thought that was a very sensible move for her and frankly a plus for the community.
And you in 2 years, where should we be expecting you?
Well, I can, I have the ability to run for re-election to the Board of Supervisors. I'm a recycled supervisor, as you may recall. I did this in the late 90s, went to Sacramento for 12 years, got termed out. Now I've come back, and in 2 years, I hope to be running for the board again.
Joseph Median, thank you for joining us here at KMVT. We're taking it to Christiana with Lenny Siegel.
Good, it's going to be a long night, so thanks for including me.
Thank you.
Thank you, Claudia. We're here tonight at the 2014 election party for Lenny Siegel, who is a candidate for the City Council of Mountain View. Good evening. How are you?
I'm doing fine.
So how are you feeling about waiting for the campaign results, which are not yet in? It's about 25 minutes. How are you feeling?
Well, I'm feeling pretty optimistic tonight, but of course I'm nervous. We don't have very good polls in Mountain View to tell us how it's going to end up. So I'm just going to wait along with everybody else and see how the votes are counted.
And this is not your first time winning, is it?
I ran for city council in 1976, 1980, and 1982. Never thought I'd do it again.
Why did you do it again?
It's because of
Hi, this is Jim Connor. I'm with KMVT here in Mountain View, California. We're checking on voter opinions. Today's election day, and I'm here with Jessica Lozano. Jessica, it's nice to meet you. And why don't you give us a little, some insights to the important issues for you in today's election?
Hello, and hello to everybody. Thank you very much. Well, to me, it's very important for all of us to come and give our opinion at if we have new people running and giving better ideas of what the city should be run and the new laws, that is amazing, and we can make the differences.
It sounds like you're concerned about the local issues here in Mountain View. Is that correct?
Yes, I live here. I'm actually from downtown, almost 4 blocks from here. So definitely is one of the cutest city I can think of. All of them are cute in the Bay Area, but we keep it nice and it's safe, and we want to keep it that way. So that's one of the reasons why I'm very happy to live here.
Are you also concerned about the school board issues as well as various other referendums?
Yeah, well, so I don't have kids myself, but I really know whoever has kids need to get involved at voting, because that's very important for everybody to be familiar with what's the best thing for the kids in school and the laws as well.
Is there any single issue that you find to be the most important issue or the highest priority for you?
Overall, I don't really see many concerns huge here in Mountain View. They are like they manage them well, but I'm hoping that with the new people taking over, hopefully things get much more smoother. And so far, it seems like we're not really with big concerns here.
Jessica, I want to thank you for your time and your willingness to speak with us.
Thank you very much. Have a good day.
You too.
Stand by.
Welcome back. We're here with Lenny Siegel, who's a candidate for City Council for the City of Mountain View. So you wanted to run for City Council to make some major changes in the city. Tell me more about what would you like to do if you were to elect it? What were the first things that you would do?
First things that I was ask the city to postpone the North Bayshore Precise Plan and the San Antonio Precise Plan so that the new council can redo them to provide for more housing and fewer jobs. That's the first thing. Secondly, I would call for the formation of some sort of a regional advisory group that would include some of the major corporations, the jobs-heavy cities like Palo Alto, Cupertino, Menlo Park, and NASA Ames, and discuss how we're going to solve the jobs housing imbalance together.
How do you think you could solve that problem? It's a major problem.
Well, basically, we need to stop building whatever offices anybody proposes, and I'm proposed that Mountain View actually set a metric where we estimate the number of jobs that'll come with the new developments and the number of employed residents we're going to get, and try to hold it even, maybe improve it a little bit. That is more housing than jobs, but definitely not let it get any worse, because that's the reason housing is so scarce, the reason housing is so expensive, and why our roadways and freeways are thoroughly congested.
So you want to focus mostly on the office, putting a stop on office building.
And slow down office building, not put a stop on it, but slow it down and build housing to match the new employment we're getting, and maybe a little bit more. Beyond that, we need to find more mechanisms to make housing more affordable or less unaffordable, including community land trusts so that people, middle-income people, can enter the ownership market, as well as the traditional programs of subsidized housing below market rate programs for lower income people.
You're a proponent of walkable neighborhoods. How would you change neighborhoods to make them truly walkable in the city of Mountain View?
Well, basically, any neighborhood development we're going to have is going to be higher density than my neighborhood. It's going to be multi-stories, and it makes sense to have retail and services on the ground floor. That's the first thing. Secondly, and the city's already working in this direction, making sure that the bike lanes don't end nowhere. We have some very nice bike lanes. I bicycle around town, and then they stop. Where do you go? Well, we need a bicycle network, not just bicycle lanes. I think some of the things they're talking about in terms of block sizes for new developments, so we don't have these large, parking lot areas, but rather city streets, that will help making neighborhoods walkable and livable.
So these changes could apply in the downtown, but also outside of the downtown, immediate downtown area.
Well, right now, downtown is pretty walkable. We do need more parking for the people who drive in from outside, because it's starting to encroach on the neighborhood, as well as for people who park at the train. That's what people in my neighborhood love doing, is walking downtown to the restaurants. and that's one of the attractions of Mountain View at this point. And we need to do that with other areas of town to make sure that there's a critical mass of people living close enough to the services, restaurants, and retail that they need.
I want to ask you about your election. You're running for election this year, and how it was different from trying to run, I think you mentioned about 20 or 30 years ago.
At least 30 years ago. Well, you know, during the campaign forums, people say how long they've been living in Mountain View. And while I don't think somebody's not qualified because they've, you know, moved in more recently than I have, which was 1972, the fact is that as I've met people going to the farmer's market, knocking door to door, I've been meeting lots of people or re-meeting people that I know from youth soccer, from the fight against air cargo at Moffett Field, from the toxic cleanup meetings, as well as the issues that we're fighting today. So a lot of people in this town know me because I've been around here a long time. I've been an activist, and I've been a parent and a resident.
Yes, I'm still here.
You know, some of my neighbors are very strong supporters. They know me from the 4th of July parades that we did back in the 1980s.
How do you feel about your running, your campaign? Do you feel pretty good about your campaign?
Well, I feel very good about my campaign. I had lots of volunteers. We didn't rely on outside money, outside mailers. We had a grassroots campaign. So, no, I feel very good about it. Got endorsements from all 4 newspapers doing endorsements. So, no, I feel good, but I won't, you know, I'll feel better when I know the results.
Yeah, in about, I would say we're going to start to see results in about 10 minutes trickling in.
And who knows how soon there'll be enough of a trend for us to be able to know whether we've won or lost. We've got 9 candidates. Everybody's competent. Everybody's articulate. Everybody loves Mountain View. So it's not like it's obvious who the top candidates are going to be. We know who are the people who want housing in North Bayshore and the people who don't. But beyond that, everybody had support. Everybody was out campaigning. A lot of people did a lot of walking, a lot of knocking on doors. So we won't know really until maybe a while before we know who's really shoots away from the pack and wins the election.
What did you do in the last couple of days of your campaign?
Mostly I knocked on doors and, you know, talked to people, introduced myself, dropped some flyers, sent some notes to newspaper, you know, kind of press releases to newspapers. But basically, this has been an ongoing campaign that started when we formed the Campaign for a Balanced Mountain View back in March, and going to city council meetings, setting up email lists, doing all the things you do to organize around issues. I didn't think I'd be running when I started that, but the people I was working with asked me to run, and they backed me, so here I am.
Well, we're very glad that you're running. Let's go back to some maybe the propositions. So Proposition 1 about the improving the quality of the water to be delivered in the state. How do you feel about that proposition?
I voted for it, but to be frank, you know, I think there's some pieces of it that I probably wouldn't have liked if I'd drafted the legislation. But, you know,
which piece would you not have drafted?
I'd have to look at it again. You know, it was you know, basically there's some fear that this putting too many dams in will block up streams, and that it also might lead to diverting more water from the delta and damaging the delta. There are arguments on both sides of whether that really is in the legislation, but that's the nervousness that we in Northern California always have when there's a water measure that's going to affect the whole state.
All right. Well, I want to thank you very much for your time this evening. Good luck. And now we're going to Jim. KMVT would like to thank our election night sponsors. Morocco's Restaurant, located in downtown Mountain View. Morocco's provides a full dining experience with a magical and exotic atmosphere. And TVU for providing live coverage capabilities for our remote reports.
Hi, this is Jim Connor. Today is Election Day here in Mountain View. I'm with KMVT. We're down here at City Hall talking to a few people who have already voted. I have Dale Amers with me. Dale, what was it like today to vote?
I haven't voted yet.
But you're about to vote.
Yes, I am.
What's your main concerns?
I
just
who
turn
to
it
vote
off.
for?
Who to vote for? What's the most important thing to you?
You know, I want to stick to people who are Christian in nature,
Okay.
because I'm a Christian, and hopefully people that aren't seeking to do their own, agenda, and have the people in mind.
Yeah. So I'm not sure any of them have announced their religious affiliation. Do you look at their issues?
Yeah, I'm going to read the information that they provide me with in there, yeah, before I vote. But that's why I called my mom, because she knows. She's up on things.
She does the background.
Yeah.
And research.
Yeah.
Okay. So what do you do?
I'm a general contractor. I'm an electrical contractor. I'm a certified journeyman electrician. But 24 hours a day, I work for Jesus.
Yeah. Okay. And in your work, at least as a contractor, are there any issues in the ballot that you're looking at that are important to you?
Not really, because right now I'm working full-time for the church.
Oh, okay. All right. So
Really?
you gave up the contracting work for a while?
Kind of.
Okay.
I'm looking forward to being a preacher.
Yeah.
A teacher.
A teacher.
Bringing the Word of God to the area, the
That's
Bay
great.
Area.
That's great. That's great. Anything else you want to add?
Thank you, Jesus.
Thank you, Dale. This is Jim Connor with KMVT at City Hall. Thank you very
Now,
much.
don't cut me out just because I said Jesus.
Catch up. It's good. We get it.
Thanks, Jim. And here I am back at the KMVT studios and with Greg Unangst, a candidate for Mountain View City Council. Hey, Greg, thanks for doing the interview, coming down and doing the interview.
It's okay. Just live down the street. No problem. As you know.
Yeah, you know where I live, which is kind of disturbing. But anyway, hey, Greg, this is your first time running for Mountain View City
First
Council.
time. Yep.
So what was your biggest challenge that you observed running?
Oh, wow. Name recognition, I think. Coming up with a relatively short history of involvement with the city, and of course I have a little bit of an unusual name.
Right.
So just getting the name out and getting it in the parlance of the discussion.
All right. Now, you are one of 9 candidates that running
Yep,
for city
right.
council.
Mhm.
Was there a challenge to distinguish yourself from the other 8 candidates?
Well, we all kind of coalesced on some of the same issues and agree on most of things. We differentiate ourselves primarily on housing in North Bayshore and the degree of housing that we want to try to achieve. I think we all recognize the jobs housing imbalance. I'm the only candidate that has come out for some kind of a rent stabilization, some kind of discussion at least, how we handle the rent situation in the city. All the other candidates have not come close to even wanting to touch that term even.
So why do you think that is?
Well, there's all kinds of theories about that. You could say, if you were cynical, that it could have something to do with all this outside money that's coming in from the landlord associations and the developers and so forth. But I don't really think that is the case. I think all the people have come to their conclusions logically, as opposed to being influenced by all the outside money. But that's an issue.
Okay. But this is your first campaign. Looking back on it now, was there anything that you would have done differently?
Quite a few things. It's a situation where you have a limited amount of money.
Right.
22,000 and change. I forget the exact number, but you can blow through that very quickly. So you have to be very strategic about how you spend your money and where you spend your money. And there's things you want to do but you can't do that are maybe not, I'll say, vote effective as opposed to cost effective. You spend money and not get very many votes for it, so you have to be thinking about that all the time and plan accordingly.
In that sense, what did you learn as the things that are cost effective versus not cost effective?
Well, I'm of a proponent that I don't believe yard signs are that effective.
Okay.
Newspaper ads are somewhat effective. Mailers are more effective. You get about 10 or 15 seconds before it goes into the recycling bin, maybe.
Yeah.
And so you have to be fairly succinct about what you put on those mailers. But it's a very expensive piece of change to put out, 10,000 mailers to different addresses in the city.
Okay. The one thing I did observe in the debates is that most of the candidates kind of agreed on most everything, but the one issue that most people tended to split on was housing in North Bayshore.
Right.
So what's your position?
Well, my position is I think we need to have housing there. That's a good place to build some higher density housing. The land is very expensive there. That would force you to build higher density. There's no other single family homes in the region that you're worried about looking into people's backyards or conflict between different styles of living and so forth. It's an opportunity to do something, I think, pretty significant in terms of doing urban villages and making it a very livable, walkable community.
All right. But there was opposition too.
Absolutely.
So how would you characterize the main opposition to housing in North Bayshore?
Well, I think some of it has to do with the lack of infrastructure. And the way I view that is a chicken and egg. If
Build it, they will come?
They will come, and conversely, why would you build it if there's nothing there to support? So it's got to be a little bit of a timing issue, but we can work that, I think, to try and get that timed correctly so that we're not years and years and years with no infrastructure there at all.
Then how about the traffic?
Well, the traffic, again, that's kind of what pushed me over the edge. What really pushed me over the edge was the fact that being on the Environmental Sustainability Task Force back in 2008, I learned that half of the carbon generated by the city of Mountain View is from cars and trucks.
Right.
So if you want to come even close to meeting our objectives for the AB 32, as it was called,
right.
To meet those objectives, you have to reduce the commutes. And one way to reduce the commutes is to build housing near your job so people can walk to work and bike to work.
Okay. But do you think that would happen if they built housing at North Bay Shore?
Abby, let me just give you a couple of anecdotes. Walking the streets, knocking on doors, I ran into a number of Google people and LinkedIn people that have purposely moved into my neighborhood just down the street because they're close to that pedestrian bridge. It ends right now on Rock Street, just on the other side of Rangsdorf, this side of Rangsdorf, here, I'm standing here. So people are moving into the neighborhood specifically because of that bridge so they can walk to work.
Okay.
So if you build housing on the other side that's even closer, I think there'd be quite a demand for it.
But you're not concerned that if they build like large high-density housing on the north side of Bayshore, that those people would still get in their cars and drive elsewhere?
Some will. But the jobs are already there.
Okay.
The commutes are already being generated by the jobs.
Okay. All right. So, but then, if that's the case, then again, what would it take to persuade the people who oppose housing in North Bayshore to twist their position?
What would it take? Some convincing.
Yes.
I think we get more dialogue about how to do the infrastructure. There's an issue of a school. We may need a school, but there are ways of getting across. 101, that Permanente Creek Trail it takes directly to Crittenden Middle School. So kids in the neighborhood can go right to that school. Mount Aloma Elementary is a little bit further away. But there's situations where there's already housing. People forget that there's already housing in North Bayshore, in the mobile home park.
Okay, but
and those people have survived fairly nicely for quite a while.
Yes, but I guess it'd be a different type of housing.
Oh yeah,
about, right?
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
Okay, and because it's higher density, right?
Exactly.
All right, so let me switch gears on you a little bit.
Oh sure.
In terms of like meeting people on a day-to-day basis in Mountain View, how would you characterize the experience?
Very enlightening. I saw parts of the city I didn't know existed. I saw some very nice places to live or so, in addition to the student loans they already have. So we're driving out our younger generation out of the city, and I don't like to see that happening.
Hey, Greg, thank you for doing the interview.
It was great. It was fun.
Let's go to Claudia with Pat Showalter.
All right. Thank you.
Hi, welcome back to KMVT. I'm Claudia Cruz. I'm here with Mountain View City Mountain View City Council candidate Pat Showalter. Pat, you must be so nervous waiting for election results.
Well, I'm going to be very glad in a few hours when this is over. We've been working incredibly hard the last 6 months to get to this point. Now everybody's voted, and it's just a little bit of a wait.
It's 5 months of running, like your campaign?
Oh, at least. Really, you start in April. So.
And how have you changed over the course of the 5 months? As a person, I mean, were you shy in April when you started, and now you're like, I just need to get as many votes as possible? How have you grown as a person over the 5 months?
Well, I've certainly developed a lot of skills. I've learned a lot about running a campaign. I'd helped with campaigns before, but I was really never central to one before, and so I had to learn all about the financing and recruiting volunteers and getting everything scheduled. And but I think the main thing I've really learned is I've learned a lot about the depth of the issues that face Mountain View now. I mean, you really hear an incredible amount about every issue. Everybody wants to educate potential council members, which is a great thing. Mm-hmm. So you get all these briefings from people who are experts in the field, and you go to many meetings, and you hear a lot of citizens talk about issues. So it's really a very stimulating process intellectually. and a lot of fun. Another thing that I really enjoyed tremendously was reconnecting with people that I'd never worked with for many, many years. I've lived in Mountain View for 30 years, and over time you kind of progress through different different organizations. When my kids were little, I did lots of stuff related to children, and then the last 10 years I've been working full time and sort of working in the environmental field some. But like for instance, I reconnected with some people I'd done Girl Scouts with 20 years ago, and that was just wonderful fun. And so that's been a great experience.
And what have you learned about the community over the 5 months? You've grown, you've become more intellectually stimulated, you've reconnected with people, but what has the community taught you over these 5 months?
Well, I think that one of the things that the community has taught me is that there's really a new generation of activists here. They seem to fall into at least two categories. One is the bicycle group, and they're doing an incredible public service of bringing to the attention specific things that can be done in Mountain View to make things safer for bicycles, and that's great. And then another group is, I think, really a group of employees from Google who are very, very concerned with increasing the supply of housing and encouraging people to do that. They're sort of young spokesmen about the need to find places to rent and places to buy that are reasonably affordable.
Mm-hmm. One of the things that we were just talking about during break is finding alternate spaces for cycling, for bicyclists to get them off highly transited areas like El Camino. If elected council member tonight, is that something that you would start looking into?
Oh, yeah. The city has been very proactive. They're in the process of developing a citywide bicycle plan, and as parts of all of the precise plans that are in the works, they're considering bicycle transportation much more carefully now. And so particularly the El Camino precise plan, that has some very good ideas, I think, for making, as we were talking about Latham and Church, be a place where we try and get people off of El Camino, get them to ride their bicycles on those parallel streets instead, where it would be safer and hopefully more comfortable.
I hope so. Maybe that'll get me to ride a bike. I'm very scared to ride a bike with so much traffic, especially in a rush hour at El Camino. San Francisco is very amazing now with Market Street. Everybody, so many cyclists. I'm very impressed with how they do that. Pat, what kind of, if elected councilwoman, what kind of feelings, how this new city council that's coming on board, what kind of attributes do you hope that you can add to the council, and that collectively you all have? Is it team building? Is it being good listeners? What kind of things are you looking for, characteristics in this new council as you possibly move forward?
Well, I hope that we'll be a little more progressive about housing, and we'll be thinking more about the balance between housing and jobs. So that'll be one thing. Personally, I've always been an environmental professional. I mean, I've worked in environmental restoration my entire career. And when I was on the Planning Commission, I worked very hard to bring the things that were relevant up and educate people about them and make sure that they didn't fall through the cracks. And Mountain View has a good reputation for that, but I will be a strong voice for the environment. That's just sort of in my DNA, and I'm going to continue with that. And another thing that I always enjoy is collaboration. I really am a pragmatic person. I like to get things done. And so in order to do that, you need to find out what's politically possible and what's practically possible. So I will be one of the people who's working really, really hard to find what's the possible. What can we pay for? What do people want? What fits into our infrastructure?
5 months of campaigning, or April till November, I'm sure your family has been very important to you.
Yes.
Talk to me about, again, how important the support system you had around you to getting to this day, and then hopefully celebrating positive results.
Well, really, my husband has been just a great support. He's very, very shy individual. and I wasn't at all sure how he was going to feel about this. But he's just made sure that I had dinner every night, and that everything was sort of taken care of at home. He's retired, and that was wonderful. And my daughter has been an extremely active member of my campaign and come up with all sorts of strategies that we needed. And then my son has always been very active too. He donated money, he's walked precincts, he helped with Facebook. So they've all kicked in. And in addition to that, my whole court, I live on Levin Court, and everybody has a sign in their yard for Showalter, and they've just been, they've just been fabulous.
Out of curiosity, do you vote by mail or do you go to the precinct and vote?
You know, I have a long tradition of going to the precinct.
So do I, so I got a sticker.
Yeah, I forgot to wear my sticker tonight, but I was thinking about that. We were talking about voting stories, and the first time I remember voting was when I was a very small child going to the polls with my father when I was about 7, and I actually went into the voting booth with him, which probably wasn't legal, but it really made this impression on me that that's something grown-ups do, is they go and they vote.
This is live television. I have to cut you off. We're going to Jane with Greg Coladinato. Back to the studio.
You live right next to Crittenden.
Right. Okay. Nope. So are we live yet? Oh, and we are live. Thank you very much. I am here with Greg Coladinato, who's running for Mountain View Wistman School District. Hey, Greg, thanks for doing the interview.
No problem, Jim.
All right. So tell me, why did you run for school district for Mountain View Wistman School District?
Well, I have my oldest son has gone through one of the local elementary schools, Stevenson, and my 2 youngest go to Stevenson now. And so I see a lot of the school district operations, and I'm the sort of person who's always trying to figure out how to do things a little better. And I came up with some ideas I think we could do better in our school district, and I thought I'll give it a try. I'll run for the school board.
Okay. So what are some of the ideas that you think that they can do better?
Well, I volunteered to be on the bond oversight committee. In 2012, voters in Mountain View passed a capital bond for our school district, a $198 million bond. And I've been on the oversight committee. I've been the chair of that committee. I was for 2 years. And so I've been watching very closely how we spend all that money. Right. So I have an MBA. I have an MBA from Wharton, so I've done some work in finance and accounting and so forth. I think we could be spending that money a little bit better. And so I've made some of these comments. I come to board meetings sometimes and I make my comments. And the board usually very politely says, thank you for your comment. And then they decide what they want to decide. So
and they ignore you.
It's occurred, well, I'm not going to say that, but if it's occurred to me that if I want to change the decisions that are coming out, I've got to be on the board.
Okay.
It looks like.
All right. Now, is this your first run in public office before?
No, actually, in June, I ran for the state assembly.
How did that work out?
I didn't win.
Oh, okay.
No, I didn't win.
But so this is your second time running.
True. That's it.
So what did you learn now? What did you learn then that you're incorporating now?
Oh, in the assembly campaign.
Well, yeah. It's your second time running. What have you done differently?
Well, I was able to get to a lot more of the territory. So that one difference is Assembly District 24 goes from Santa Clara, Cupertino, the edge of Cupertino and Santa Clara, to Menlo Park, and to the Pacific Ocean.
Yep.
So it's hard to head around that many doors.
It's a big
to
pond.
knock. Yeah. Now the school district isn't even as big as Mountain View, so.
Right.
There's a couple 20-something thousand voters. And so you can get your head around, like, all right, which of these voters am I going to try to get a message to? And you can afford to do it without raising tons of money.
Okay. All right. So the thing, now running this looking back on your this campaign, is it what have you learned?
I learned my kids are pretty good at labeling postcards and putting the stamps on them. Sometimes they're upside down.
Okay.
They're not always perfectly horizontal.
Right.
But they had a lot of fun. So I would print out, if I was going to send out a mailer, I'd print them out on the printer, and I'd send them down. They'd say, oh, give me those stickers, and they'd start sticking them on. And so that was more economical. I didn't have to pay them very much to do that.
You paid them?
None. I didn't pay them anything, but which made it very affordable to do that sort of campaign mailer.
Okay. All right. What have you found out meeting your potential constituents?
They're my neighbors. As I met my neighbors, I found out that a lot of people don't know that much about the school district, but they all agree with me on some of the things that we could do, that we should try to do better. Everybody wants the money to be invested in our schools, in our school sites, to be invested rationally and intelligently. Everybody wants, if there's some schools that could be doing a little better and some students that could be doing better, everybody wants to figure out a way to help them.
Right.
And I've got some, in my opinion, some new ideas to try out. If I were to be on the board, I'd say, have we considered this? Have we considered that? Let's try these things.
Right. So so your opponents, let's like this. What's the worst? I'll throw this as the last question. About
Is this a curveball or a softball?
Yeah, curveball.
Okay.
What's the worst that could happen if you don't win?
The worst that can happen if I don't win. Let's see. Is that a double negative?
Well,
I don't know. Okay,
no,
I'm not sure. The worst, if I don't win, I'm going to keep doing the same thing I already do.
Right.
Which is I'm on that one oversight committee. I go to like every school board meeting, and I share my thoughts with the board every chance I get at making public comments on things.
Okay.
So I guess it'd be worst for the current board members.
Okay.
If I don't get elected, because they're going to still hear from me.
Okay.
But they're going to have to hear from the elected people too. At the same time. So it's,
Okay.
I'm not going to stop.
You're not
with
gonna
the
start-
ideas. I'm not going to. The ideas are going to keep coming.
Okay. So you'll
that's the
still
worst.
stay involved, correct?
Definitely.
All right.
Definitely.
Hey, thank you. Thanks a lot, Greg, for talking to us.
Sure thing.
And on to some public service announcements.
KMVT would like to thank our election night sponsors. Morocco's Restaurant, located in downtown Mountain View. Morocco's provides a full dining experience with a magical and exotic atmosphere. And TVU, for providing live coverage capabilities for our remote reports.
Where do you think you're going?
Is your body holding you back?
I want to go running. Not with that knee, you're not. I'm fine. Negative.
Your bones and joints can say no at any age.
With that shoulder, you're gonna pick up that truck. Really?
Keeping you from working, playing, or just plain moving.
Let's not pick her up. What do you say?
Yet a lot of people who live with pain fight back.
Use your head. Save your back. My bride, my rules.
And regain their lives.
You gotta be kidding me.
Whoa. I'm going running. I'm going running.
I got to see this. Come on, pick it up.
Fight for your mobility. Find your own inspiration at anationinmotion.org. A message from the American Academy of Orthopedic Surgeons.
Come on. I'll take it from here.
Claudia Cruz here with Oscar Garcia, Executive Director of the Mountain View Chamber of Commerce, Mountain View, other way around. We just got alerts that the polls have closed in California. How exciting is that?
It's actually really exciting, and especially for us here in Mountain View. Mountain View tends to be a very quiet community, not a lot of things, happening or shaking. But given the growth that is happening here in transportation, cost of living, et cetera, and so forth, the Chamber this year got very involved in elections, and it's very important for the Chamber to represent the interest of our members.
Can you remind the residents of Mountain View who the Chamber endorsed this year?
So this year we endorsed Ken Rosenberg, Ellen Kamei, Pat Showalter, and Lisa Matichek.
And I'm sure people have read some of the reasons why in the local newspapers and from your own writing. What do you hope the candidates add to the city of Mountain View? If elected, what do you hope the candidates add to it?
Yeah, this year we endorsed a really diverse group of candidates. Some folks, were actually surprised at the candidates that we endorsed because it's not all pro-business or all pro-environment. It's really a blend of things because, quite frankly, that's representative of our members. And so one of the things that we hope that the candidates, once they get elected, is that, one, they are open to listening to the diverse input of the community and really look at not only what is best for Mountain View now, but really into the future.
What are some of the interests now and for the future for your members, the businesses of Mountain View? We were talking a little bit earlier about housing. How do businesses worry about housing in Mountain View? You'd think that, the more people live here, the better, but how does that affect their interests?
Housing is a huge impact, and it doesn't matter if you're a small business owner, medium, or even a large company. If you're a small business owner, the cost of living here is for your employees, and for them to retain them, it's very difficult. A one-bedroom apartment, I've heard different figures. It could be anywhere from $1,500 to $2,000. Some cases, even $3,000 or more for an apartment, and so it becomes very expensive for really doesn't matter what income bracket to live here. If it's a large company, talent attraction and retention also is something that's very important. And for Mountain View, we've always prided ourselves on being a diverse community, not just ethnically but socioeconomically. And so it is something that is a concern to our members in terms of the cost of living here.
So what are some of the other concerns that came up during this election season that now, citizens have gone to the polls, and they will make their vote heard tonight. But in the meanwhile, they were hearing all these things. What kind of things were the businesses telling you they were also concerned with, in addition to housing?
Transportation. Transportation is another big thing that is important to our members. You drive up and down 101 or 280 or even Shoreline and other major thoroughfares in the city, and there's a lot of traffic out there. Commutes are much longer, and just the wear and tear on the roads and so forth. And so transportation is another big issue that's important to our members.
How will the chamber continue to stay involved in addressing some of these issues along with the city and the companies? I believe there is a transportation authority that is sort of being created with the different companies.
Yeah, so there is. So one of the things at the chamber is we have a public policy committee, meets once a month, and it's made up of roughly about 16, 17 chamber members of various types of businesses. And the role of the committee is to and overall the chamber, one of the roles, is to advocate on behalf of our members. And so we have Diana Bautista, who's our government relations manager, has been doing a fabulous job with that with that committee. And we will continue to stay involved. There's projects, development projects that are on the way. You mentioned again the transportation group, and there's other groups and issues that we will continue to be involved in. Basically, right now, the way what we look at it is that tonight we'll decide, we'll find out who gets elected, and really the work then begins to work with, hopefully it's the candidates that we endorse, but if not, we'll work with whomever.
And we're almost running out of time, but any other parties for you tonight?
No, not the other. We've been working very hard this election year, so no, we'll call it early tonight.
So we're very excited to have you here. Thank you. A great job with the chamber, and we're looking forward to a successful. I think it was a very tough slate, so I think that any of the candidates will probably do very well for the city, but we're looking forward to seeing what the election results are now that the polls have closed, and I'm still getting alerts on my phone. So as soon as I'm able to send it back to Jim, Jim's with Ken Rosenberg at the studio.
Hey, thank you very much, Claudia. I'm here with Ken Rosenberg, candidate for Mountain View City Council. Hey, Ken, thanks for coming down and doing the show. How you feeling tonight?
Well, the first results are starting to come in, and I'm feeling a little better because I'm up on the. I think I was number 2 when I last saw.
Well, number 2 is better than being number 9, right?
So far, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So, is this the first time running, or have you run before?
This is my first time.
All right. So now that you've looked back on you have your first campaign underneath your belt, is there anything that you would have done differently looking back at it?
That's an interesting question. Last night I went through the KMVT YouTube videos, all of them.
Right.
And I spent a couple hours doing that and just reviewing what I said.
Right.
And so I really think that I stuck to my message. I stuck to the campaign principles that I set out from the beginning. You get advice from so many different people when you're the candidate, and they're all trying to pull you in different directions, and I had a game plan and I stuck to it. So I'm very proud of my campaign. It was based on civility, and it was based on a positive message. So
when you're being pulled in all these different directions, or people pulling you in different directions, is there an underlying theme that keeps you anchored And if so, what is it?
Well, there's probably a different response for every candidate you talk to, but in my case, I really want to include more Mountain View residents in the discussion of where Mountain View is headed. And so every time I had to bring every issue kind of back to that. How would I fit this into a decision-making process? Okay. And so obviously not everything can involve all of Mountain View and so forth. There are some big issues that we're facing, though.
But you wanted to reach as many people. You wanted to incorporate as many people as possible in the conversation, right?
Right. So my campaign was run that way. I personally knocked on doors. I didn't leave door hangers. I knocked on doors, and I reached a lot of people. I spoke to about 1,800 different individuals. I kept track.
What did you learn about your fellow Mountain View citizens by knocking on their doors?
One, not everybody's a big fan of somebody knocking on their door.
Okay.
Secondly, most people are really appreciate Mountain View. They really like the city that they live in, and many people are concerned about the changes that are happening. We're at a precipice right now in terms of where we're, are we about to build a bridge and safely land on the other side, or are we going to fall into the abyss? And there's a lot of issues facing Mountain View, and I think most of the voters that I talk to are aware of them.
Okay. You have a bell with you. Tell me about the bell.
Well, this is a funny story. One of the things you get when you're a candidate is a treasure trove full of stories.
Okay.
This is one of them. Okay. I put a couple yard signs, 2 as a matter of fact, at somebody's house who lives downtown Mountain View.
Okay.
And they were promptly stolen.
People steal signs in Mountain View?
Yeah, this is a few months ago, and they weren't vandalized. They were actually stolen. So I don't know where they went. And I got a request for a yard sign, and I was concerned because it was immediately across the street from the house where the yard signs had been stolen. So I made a comment to the parents, and so their daughter, who was I think enamored by my logo, said. Got that message, and I got photographs from the moms. Her daughter, Marin, is her name, and she put the yard sign under her window and put string around it and attached cowbell.
So no one would steal your sign?
So that if it was stolen, people would know that it's being stolen and they can run out and do it so forth. And she's here tonight. She presented me would you like to come over? Just for a second?
Sure, why not?
Yeah, so she presented me with one of the cowbells that was on the yard sign. So I will keep this forever as a memento of the campaign, because this is really special. So thank you so much for doing that. Yeah, really nice.
And when you move on to bigger and better things, you'll remember?
Yes, I will. And I want you to sign this tonight. So before you leave, let's make sure we get a Sharpie and you can put your name on it. Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you. Thanks for your support too.
All right. So Ken, you also had you had previous experience working with the city before, right?
Only as a volunteer.
Okay, but did you serve on the Human Relations Committee?
I still am. Yeah, I'm still a Human Relations Commissioner, and that's an appointed position. I've also been on the Downtown Committee before, which is also an appointed position.
Tell me, could you tell me if serving on the Human Relations Commission, how it might have prepared you for running for office?
I think any community activity that you do just introduces you to more and more people. I'm a very involved person, involved in Mountain View activities, and over the years I've gained a lot of relationships that have helped me make decisions about where I want to go. It has led me here to a council candidate. But HRC tackles very different issues than, say, the EPC or the Parks Commission and so forth. And I feel that that type of learning experience on more of the human level, what's happening in a city and how is that impacting the residents, not from a fiscal perspective, but from a
it's more than numbers.
Yeah,
right?
There's an emotion behind it, and I think that's part of my character, part of my personality.
All right. Now, when I observed the debates, it seemed that most of you, the 9 of you, kind of agreed on a lot of things, but there are certain things that you guys kind of split on.
Yeah.
The one thing that seemed to be the biggest split was housing in North Bayshore. Right. Briefly give me your take on it.
Well, Mountain View is going through a transition period where we have problems of prosperity.
Right.
So we have too many jobs. We have an abundance of jobs. And when City Council, the current City Council, is approving new office space, but not approving in other words, jobs, but not approving new housing developments. Essentially what they're saying is we welcome you to work in Mountain View, but we don't welcome you to live in Mountain View.
Okay.
And I find that to be somewhat problematic. So one of the last areas of Mountain View where we have potential space for housing, in other words, a new community, is the North Bay Shore area.
Okay.
And I just feel that if we can put some of the people who work in Mountain View near where they live to where they, close to where they work, then we will be solving a few different problems.
All right. Thank you very much, Ken. I'm going to throw it up to you, Claudia, who's with Martha McClatchy.
Hi, Martha. How are you nervous? It's election night.
I am super nervous, but very happy that it's election night.
How long have you been campaigning? How long has your campaign?
So about first of the year, I really started to think about how serious I was about running.
And how have you grown throughout the? January 1st of the year.
Yeah. It's been very exciting, meeting a lot of Los Altans and folks from Mountain View that I had never met before, seeking endorsements, sort of getting an understanding what they think is important in the election for school board. So I spent a lot of time doing that, and then a lot of time just reaching out to voters, ringing doorbells. Spent a lot of time.
Do you have a fitness tracker? Do you keep track of how many steps you took?
No, about more than 24,000 voters. I did not keep track.
What kind of things were they concerned about? When you knocked on doors, when you walked into businesses, when you saw people on the street, what were they telling you about? If I just remind people, Martha, you're running for Los Altos School District Board of Trustee.
Yep, K through 8, yeah.
So that's, there's a lot of stuff happening in the Los Altos School District.
Yeah.
What were the concerns of the voters?
So I talked with voters about the bond a lot that's on the ballot. I think they felt that was an important, most of the people I spoke with, felt that was important for the school district.
Mm-hmm.
I think people were also concerned and very happy that the Los Altos School District and the Bullis Charter School had reached a 5-year agreement to end litigation, because that was important, I think is important for our community to know that we have an understanding that litigation isn't the way to solve issues. So I think I talked with voters about that. I think to a lesser degree, voters were concerned about the quality of education, because the Los Altos School District has a great quality of education. So they wanted to make sure it was still, a quality program, which it is. And we had great conversations about where older folks thought education should be going, and of course, younger folks are very concerned about having their kids go to a great school district as well.
Correct me if I'm wrong,
Yes.
but I keep hearing that you framed your campaign around being the watchdog for Measure N. So $150 million is what the district is asking for from voters.
Yes.
And the terms of how the money would be used are still a little vague. So as a watchdog, what were you hoping, if elected tonight, what kind of things would you be looking for?
So watchdog's probably stronger than I'd like. Fiscally concerned that money, the bond money, be spent appropriately. I am concerned or am looking forward to spending bond money on growing capacity. So there are many things that the district could do with the bond. Growing capacity to me is one of the key things that they should be doing, I hope. And that's buying a school. Buying an additional school site.
And if elected, where do you think the school district should buy a school site?
Yeah, so
we're not campaigning anymore because polls have closed.
I know, so people have voted.
but if you are elected, this is going to come up. So
it certainly is. And first and foremost, there is a facilities subcommittee set up which is looking at this issue. So as a trustee, I will be working with that group or listening to what they're contributing to this. I certainly have my opinion, and I understand there are many opinions about where the school site should be built out. My first and foremost thought is a neighborhood school in the north of El Camino area, which is in Mountain View. I think would be a great addition to the school district.
Let's talk about something fun.
Vacation?
Where do you want to go on vacation after this is over?
Actually, I'm looking forward to just being at home with my family. I think they miss me. They've told me no more going out to dinner, Mom. We want you to cook. So I'm looking forward to that, being at home.
How important was your family during these months?
Incredibly supportive. I have 3 daughters. My husband all really supported my campaign, encouraged me, a little bit went out walking with me, but my kids are, of course, busy with their activities, and my husband's busy with his work. So I think they just supported me by understanding that I'd be going to a lot of meetings, a lot of school board meetings, meeting with a lot of people, having a lot of coffee, although I don't drink coffee that much, but at least going out and socializing, meeting voters. So they understand there are a lot of voters.
The school district isn't just an insular entity. You know, you work with the Los Altos City Council.
Yeah.
You work with possibly Mountain View City Council, especially if you're looking to try to get space on the north side of El Camino. Have you reached across the street, you know, whether it's San Antonio or whether it's El Camino? How has that been part of your campaign strategy?
Absolutely. One of the things that I think is critical for our school board is to be able to work with the city councils of Mountain View, Los Altos, and Los Altos Hills.
Mm-hmm.
So I have made a point of meeting, I think, most all of the candidates in Mountain View, as well as the candidates in Los Altos. So I am looking forward to a really good relationship with them.
If you are elected, what kind of attributes are you looking forward to bringing to the district?
So I view myself as a consensus builder. So that would be someone who can sit and understand and appreciate what other people's points of view, and then contributing my own point of view, and then sort of rallying and seeing that we can all sort of agree or agree to disagree. So I'm looking forward to the dialogue and the engagement with my fellow trustees. I'm also looking forward to working with teachers and our administrators, Superintendent Jeff Baer. It'll be a lot of fun. I think there's a lot of different people to engage with.
As we opened up earlier, we know that polls have closed, and we got a sneak peek at some of the results. So we know it looks very close.
Yeah, it does. It does. It's exciting. I'm glad it's close. It means a lot. It means that people are voting and they're thinking about what they're voting, who they're voting for.
I mean, what are you going to do tonight? Just fall asleep?
Well, I have to go home and do homework with my kids. So.
Well, Martha, good luck. Good luck to you. And now we'll take it back to the studio for election poll results.
Good night.
Yeah, wow, we got back those results here. And we're back from live coverage. We'd like to thank TVU for providing the technology and the equipment that allows us to do live coverage here of the Mountain View elections in here. First time I think the station's done really live coverage, right? Right?
I was here 2 years ago and I had to go tape and then bring back the tape, and now we're live. This is great.
Right, and now we got the results, and gosh bless the internet, we can do everything in real time and instantaneous results, even though I haven't seen any of the results. Have you seen the results?
I've seen a couple. It's very tight races everywhere. Los Altos School District, Mountain View City Council. I think it's still anybody's race tonight. I'm very excited to see what's going to happen. No one could call themselves a winner yet.
Okay. Well, they're all winners. Anyways, so let's throw it out to Christiana State, who's with Fiona Walter at Stein's Beer Garden.
We are live at KMVT's 2014 election night, and we are here with Fiona Walker, who is a candidate for the Board of Trustees for the Los Altos Mountain View School Board. Good evening, how are you?
Hi, fine, thank you.
There's a lot of happy energy here, and especially because you are in the lead. How does it feel?
It's wonderful. It's been a long campaign, and it was very fun to see that first number pop up.
Now, you're a veteran of campaigning. You have campaigned before a few different times. Was this any different?
Definitely different. With 7 of us in the field trying to get 3 seats, it was a bigger field than I've dealt with in the past. Definitely different.
What did you do differently?
Really tried to walk as much as possible, teamed up with a few other candidates in different races to make sure that we covered more area, but really just tried to be out there.
So it was definitely a tougher campaign this time?
Absolutely.
So if you're continuing on this winning streak, what would be the first thing that you would do once in office?
Well, the first thing that I would want to do right away is I've kind of run the campaign based on better communications out to parents, and I think we could do that right away. I think we could start some monthly communications talking about topics at the board level, things that are coming or things that just happened. I think we could start that right away.
And how soon do you think those improvements would be implemented?
Well, whoever is elected is not sworn in until early December, and after that I don't think there's even another meeting because then the holidays hit. So January?
Okay, that sounds good. So tell me the hardest thing that you had to do on this campaign.
There were a ton of questionnaires. All of the candidates, it's not just me, all of the candidates had, because we had both Mountain View and Los Altos, there were questionnaires from every different organization, whether or not they wanted to endorse us, they just wanted information on the candidates. So League of Women Voters and Friends of Los Altos and the Town Crier and the Boys. So there's a lot of behind the scenes happening as we were, communicating about the campaign strategies.
Okay. So how do you feel your campaign was against the other contenders to this role?
I'm sorry.
So how do you feel that your strength is, and as far as the campaign and what you're looking for to do compared to your other candidates?
Oh, as far as the challengers one, I think I came in with the most experience, having been on the elementary board for 8 years already. So I think I brought that with me, that experience, to be able to just step onto the board right away.
That sounds good. Let's talk about Measure N. So that's the measure that is talking about the $100 million funding for expanding the classrooms or building a new school. How do you feel about that measure?
So that's obviously actually for the Los Altos Elementary District, so that's not for the high school district. And it's actually $150 million, and I definitely support that. They've got so much growth in the district. They know it. They know that it's coming. I definitely support that measure.
What do you think about the argument that the existing schools could be expanded, and instead of building a new school, we could expand the new schools and we can run it more efficiently? What do you think about that argument?
I have not sat on they've got a task force addressing this issue, and I have not been privy to all of those conversations. it's an interesting thing to look at. Where will they find the land, right? Where is the land to do this? So it's an interesting thing to talk about, but I've not been privy to those conversations.
Any other measures that are dear to your heart that you voted for maybe this year?
I'm tracking Proposition 2 closely and actually voting no on Proposition 2 because it reduces the amount of reserves that school districts can carry forward with them as part of a number of lots of other different things. But anyway, so that one I did vote no on.
Okay. How about the proposition on changing the certain felonies to misdemeanors and the funds that could be used as savings for schools? How do you feel about that?
So that one I did vote yes on.
It's just a no-brainer for you?
I don't know that it was a no-brainer. I researched it very closely and concluded that it could be a good solution for us.
That sounds great. Well, thank you so much for your time tonight. I wish you the best of luck. And now we're going back to Jim.
Yeah, thank you very much. And I'm here with Council Member Mike Kasperzak. Hey, Mike, thanks for doing the show again.
Hey, absolutely.
All right. So you're a sitting council member. You ran a couple of years ago, so you're not running this time, right?
And it feels really good not to be running this year.
All right. But you get to be an interested and somewhat more informed observer. What's your take been on this particular race so far?
Well, looking at the results that are coming in so far with Pat, Ken, and Lenny, the people of Mountain View have really spoken about what they think about the North Bay Shore and housing out there. This is a real sea change in policy in Mountain View.
Okay, so do you think that if they're elected, that we'll get housing in North Bay Shore?
Well, you still have to build it,
right?
And you still have to change the general plan, and we'll have to change a precise plan because I think the council will probably approve the existing precise plan. But this is good for me because I was in favor of housing in the North Bay Shore. So,
okay.
But this is a real sea change.
Okay, but you do have a little bit of a dog in this election fight. Tell me about Measure A.
Well, Measure A was a measure that the voters were asked to vote on as to whether the city council's compensation should be adjusted from the salary that was set in 1983. Right. The council's been getting $500 a month. It was adjusted to $600 when we hit $75,000, and the ballot measure was for $1,000, which is almost a full adjustment for inflation, but not quite. And it's looking like that is doing very well. I think the voters, it's not even minimum wage under the new minimum wage law that the council approved a month ago.
Okay, but do city council members serve for the money here in Mountain View?
Well, does the President of the United States serve for the money?
No, he serves for the power and the perks.
Well, we don't serve for the power or the perks, but we spend, probably 20 to 30 hours a week doing the people's work in Mountain View. And I also think that we don't get the number of people running from all walks of life that we should. $1,000 a month won't do that. I don't think Mountain View is ready for a full-time city council.
Right.
Either am I.
Okay, but, well, you say more people would run. We have 9 candidates, right? Running for 3 spots. Do you think they're all from a single slice of life, or what do you think of the current crop of candidates in terms of diversity?
Well, I mean, it's a diverse crowd, but socioeconomically, it's not that diverse. They are self-employed, retirees, spouses, but we don't have really average workers. I mean, Mercedes is a lawyer in her own law practice. Pat works for a government agency. Ken is a financial analyst with Morgan Stanley. Sorry, Ken. But he's kind of his own boss.
Right.
Nobody is what I would say a working stiff, and working stiffs don't run for the city council. And we should have working stiffs working on the city council.
But do you have that type of people that type of working stiffs running for office elsewhere?
You do.
Okay.
You do. Down in Santa Barbara, the members of the city council are paid 80% of the median wage in the area. That's like $60,000 or $70,000 in the Santa Barbara area. You don't need to be working to be able to do that job. Mm-hmm. And
so it's a full-time, almost like full-time job.
Well,
in
that is
Santa
a
Barbara.
full-time job, as it is like in San Jose.
Okay.
But I'm not advocating for that right now. This was good enough.
All right. So when all is said and done after this election's over, there's going to be another term. What do you see as the biggest challenge going forward for this next term, next couple of years for the city of Mountain View?
Well, I think the booming economy in the Bay Area is still the biggest challenge. I mean, it's in a recession, everybody is waiting for a booming economy. We've got a booming economy, and people are waiting for a recession. Traffic is bad. A lot of people think there's too much growth going on. There is a lot of corporate growth, a lot of employee growth, which is great, but it has a lot of impacts. And these are going to be the issues that the council is going to be continuing to deal with. We've got a couple of other great opportunities in terms of getting some great hotels in Mountain View, something that we're really lacking in. Some major precise plans for the future growth of the city. So this is a big election.
Okay. So then, what would your approach be then to finding the balance between growth and housing?
You know, it's a tough one. I have always personally been a housing advocate. We need more housing. We have a big group that's really big on jobs housing balance, but a lot of people are still opposing and telling us to reduce the amount of housing that's being developed.
Okay.
And so we're sort of pulled between two horses.
Okay. And that's why they pay you the not so big bucks?
Not so big bucks.
Hey, Mike, thank you for doing the interview, and on to Claudia, who has, I believe, Brian Schmidt. Take it away.
I'm here with Brian Schmidt, who is a candidate for the Santa Clara Water District Board. I'm so sorry, I was juxtaposed those. Brian, how was the election season for you this year?
It was exhausting, but very exciting as well. Getting out to see so many people going door to door, Caltrain stations, farmers markets. Really had a great chance to talk to people.
And I know because I saw you at the Caltrain station. I think I take the 756 bullet train, and there you were handing out pamphlets.
Yeah, it's a great chance to talk to people at that time. I found mornings people want to talk to me. In the evenings, they don't want to talk to me. They just want to get home.
You know, water is such a big issue here in California. Do you think that made it easier for you to maybe reach some voters this year?
Yeah, I think there's no question that people really think about the drought, and I've heard a lot about that. And when I talk to people, I've talked about what we've done at the Water District to address the drought, how we increased rebates, even water conservation rebates we give people even before the drought, which I worked on, and then I worked on helping us double water conservation rebates to take out lawns, things like that I think are really important. People understand that.
Now, we're here at KMVT Studios, and KMVT serves not just Mountain View, but Los Altos and Cupertino. How does the Water District, and if you're re-elected to the board, how will the Water District continue to serve these three communities, and how does it serve it differently?
Well, the Water District's three missions are water supply, flood protection, and then environmental restoration around creeks in the bay. And for water supply, we are the primary water supplier for the county as a whole. For Mountain View, we're the secondary supplier, though we do provide around 15% of Mountain View's water supply. Cupertino and Los Altos, it's almost all of their water comes from us. So that's a really important water source for those areas. And then any place that has creeks running through them, even now these creeks are pretty dry, but in the winter, it can be a very different story. We can have really destructive flooding in this area. And we've worked on taking 100,000 parcels in the county, residential parcels, out of the flood zone. That's something we can continue to do, especially with sea level rise along the bay being another issue that we want to address.
I know we were all very happy when we had rain last Thursday and Friday, despite the fact that it rained on
Halloween.
Not just Halloween, but the Giants Parade.
Yeah.
You know, this 100-year drought flood that everybody worries about, and you're mentioning the parcels that the district tries to save. Should people aren't always worried about that. Like, should they be worried about that? And if you're reelected, you know, how is that? It just continues to be a priority for the board?
Dealing with the flood is really important, and we have found that if we go a generation along a particular stream without a flood, people lose that memory that the stream could flood. A good example was San Francisco Creek in Palo Alto. where before the late 1990s, it hadn't really flooded very much, and people thought it wasn't a problem. Then we had that big flood in 1998. Now people are very motivated to do something about that. So,
what got you interested in water?
what got me interested in water is I'm an environmental attorney and been interested in environmental issues for quite a long time. So I came out here to study environmental law at Stanford, and they have an excellent water law curriculum there. And I took every water law program or class related to water law that I could, and I've been interested in it ever since. Some of my academic work was on water law issues.
So now election polls have closed, and you're hoping to be reelected. Was it a tough race?
It was quite a tough race. It looks like my opponent has spent more money in this race than in any California water district race ever. At least 6 times more than any Santa Clara Valley Water District race ever. So we spent a normal amount, around $18,000, $19,000. Outspent over 20 to 1 is a huge difficulty that we're trying to deal with.
I know you're trying to remain positive, even though the results are showing that he's ahead of you. Is there something that you would run again if not reelected?
He's slightly ahead.
Slightly ahead, no?
52-48, very early in the polls, so it's a nail biter. He's ahead right now. We'll just keep on seeing what the voters eventually decide.
And if you could give any advice to residents, Cupertino, Los Altos, and Mountain View about water conservation, because we're not sure that it's going to continue to rain this year, what kind of advice would you give them?
My advice would be, no matter how much it rains this winter, we still need to conserve. We're very far in the hole with the drought. We had 2 previous dry winters before this last one. So please continue conserving. Don't think because it's raining the drought is over. It's not, and we're going to continue to work on it, and I will continue to work on it if I get a chance to go back to the board.
Very quickly on Prop 1, what did the Water District think about the Prop 1?
The Water District supported Prop 1. We voted unanimously, including myself, to support Prop 1. Not all the funding priorities are the ones that we might agree with, but overall the good, I think, far outweighs the bad. There's money spent for conservation, for water recycling, for environmental enhancement, and for groundwater cleanup. So I think those are good things.
Well, Brian Schmidt, good luck tonight with the poll results, and over to Christiana with Margaret Capriles at Agave.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We're here live at KMVT's 2004 election night, and we're here with Margaret Capriles, who is a candidate for the City Council of Mountain View. Good evening. How are you?
I'm doing well, thank you.
The results are coming in. How do you feel so far?
Well, with only two of the precincts reporting, I think I feel really good. And I know we've run a very good campaign, so I'm looking forward to see how the rest of the precincts think about our campaign.
So this will be a long night and maybe a couple of more days. Who knows when the final results will finally come in?
Yes, yes. So patience is a virtue.
Absolutely. Now, you ran a couple of years ago,
yes,
and this is your second time.
That's correct.
And how did you do things differently this year?
I've run my campaign the way I ran it in 2012. And I think walking the precincts and getting to know the community of Mountain View has been a fabulous experience. And I encourage people to walk around and see what an amazing town we have in all places in Mountain View. And I look forward to serving you on the City Council, and I think it will be a good thing for all of us, for me to be on the council to represent everyone.
Were there certain things or new things that you learned about Mountain View in your second campaign?
I found that we have more and more diversity, young and old, and lots of different diverse cultures, but that's what we embrace, and that's what we love about Mountain View. And I think that we want to continue to move in that direction, and I think we want to make sure we include everyone. And so that's what we are, at least what I believe our city is striving for. And I look forward to seeing more of that, more of the celebration.
What was the hardest thing about your campaign this year?
The hardest part of the campaign this year was trying to meet everyone so they can get to know me personally. I think the hard thing is when people look at messages and about people on paper, it's not easy to know who that person really is. And so to get out and meet everybody in Mountain View when there's 75,000 plus is not such an easy job. So that was the hardest thing for me to do.
On your list of priorities, you mentioned housing, you mentioned transportation and water quality. If you were to be elected, which one of these three you would focus on first?
I think that the thing we need to focus on first is transportation, because I think all the citizens in Mountain View are the ones that encounter those traffic jams every single day and the delays. And it puts us all in a great deal of hurry. And I think it really is not good for the safety of the citizens. So we need to address that transportation issue immediately.
How would you change? What would be the first things they would change about transportation?
Well, we've already started that with some of the shuttles, and also the one thing that we're starting to focus on is the infrastructure for safe pedestrian and bike areas, and certainly around the schools, and the ability for the children to safely ride their bikes or walk to school is one of the things we really need to look at and to fix right away.
I would like to talk about Prop 1, which is the proposition about the water conversation and spending $7.5 billion to improve our infrastructure in California. How do you feel about that?
Well, I think it's a smart thing to do, and one of the things I think Proposition 1 does not include, which has been a very big concern of all of us, is the tunnels, and the tunnels going out of the Delta. And so it does not include that, but it does talk about how we can be smarter about how we're conserving our water and how we're taking care of it. And I think we're learning more and more about how we use our water and how we recycle it. As I walked around the city, there are many, many signs that say brown is the new green. So I think a lot of our citizens are very self-conscious of that, and I think we need to make sure that we continue to learn more and to do better about that water. So certainly Prop 1 is going to be statewide, and it'll help us get there quicker.
What do you think about the argument that maybe building more dams is unnecessary, is not necessarily going to increase the supply of water in California?
Well, I think that that's some detail that all of us need to better understand. As I understand the distribution of the water within the state, it's quite complex. So, for example, Mountain View gets the majority of their water from the Hetch Hetchy and not from the Santa Clara Water District. So how that distribution works and how we are
to the schools to basically take them to levels that they're at today, to basically take them to a much higher level, which they can be, and help kids transition to life after high school. And that's what I think is really needed for most of our students today.
What are some of the issues that you see on the board that the board needs to decide or to evaluate as we go forward?
So I think some of the most important things is the curriculum. What do we need to do to help our kids transition better to life, either as they go into college or even go into a career after high school? It's not all just about academics, but it's also about critical thinking and problem-solving skills, which is very important. We need to bring back vocational programs like woodworking, metal shop, automotive, all these things that can and make it relevant for today, so kids can have a practical experience of the knowledge that they're learning, because that'll help them transition to a life much better after high school.
You have deep technical experience here in the Valley. What would you bring to the board in terms of your experience?
Right. So and this is what I think is what is distinct about my experience. A very good transition into the Common Core. I think the fundamentals of what the Common Core wants to bring to our students and to our schools is correct. It's just the implementation of those principles, and that is what's going to be tricky. So an ideal world is that would be a very smooth transition in the next 2 years. The testing that's going to happen, this will be the first year that we actually test the the 11th graders on the Common Core test, we're going to see how well they do and how well are we not only just teaching our kids, but how well does the Common Core really test our kids in that critical thinking.
You're new to politics.
Yes.
What's the campaign experience been like?
It's been a lively experience, I should say. You know, it's had its ups and had its downs. You know, but it's all in all, it's been a fantastic experience. I've met some amazing people. One of the things that I was always concerned about is going door to door. I wasn't sure how many doors would get slammed in my face, but I was amazed at how pleasant and nice everybody was, and they were willing to talk and willing to listen. And that was actually my favorite thing to do campaigning, was actually going door to door.
You came to my house, I had a delightful conversation with you, and I really enjoyed meeting you. My wife would not stop talking about you. So my last question is, how does your family feel about this experience and this decision you've made?
My family is very enthusiastic, but I have to say they were very surprised. So I actually did not tell them that I actually applied as a candidate. Later that night at dinner time, my wife likes to go
Yeah, they look pretty. There's nothing in my teeth, is there? Ah, yeah, okay.
They're also showing a little bit of training for who's going.
Hi, we're heading to Jim Connor, who interviewed Mary Proctor earlier, who's leading in the Los Altos City Council district race.
Hi, this is Jim Connor with KMVT Television in Mountain View. I'm here at the campaign election party with Mary Proctor, candidate for Los Altos City Council. Mary, thank you for taking a few minutes to talk to us. Let me ask you, what got you to decide to go into this race?
I felt that the town needed to have an election, and when I pulled papers, there were only 2 people running. There were people unhappy with quite a few things around town, and I thought we needed to have a conversation before an election.
What are some of the current issues that you thought people are unhappy about?
Well, people wanted to talk about the development of First Street in downtown. They didn't feel that they understood prior to the building of those buildings what they were going to look like. I thought maybe it would have been better if we had used story poles and perhaps some 3D modeling. People are also concerned that maybe their voice isn't as heard as well as they would like it to be heard by the council. And I think I'm a good listener and wanted to bring that to the council.
What kind of experience will you bring to the board?
I have a broad experience in the community, none political, but I have been chair of the real estate board. I have been president of the Los Altos Rotary. I've been president of the Chamber of Commerce. I served on the founding board of the Bank of Los Altos. And I was co-chair of the Rotary AIDS Project, which is the thing of which I'm most proud.
That's really a very diverse range of experience beyond what most people have in politics today. What would you like to see happen in the next 2 years in an ideal situation?
Well, ideally, I'd like to see us generate a plan for the downtown of Los Altos, as well as connecting to the community center. I also would like to find new ways to engage the public so that they feel as though they have a piece of the government and that their voices are being heard.
You're new to politics. You've been mainly in the professional and the corporate world, serving on boards, nonprofits. What has the campaign experience been like for you?
It's been extremely interesting. First of all, I'm very lucky to have the support of the people behind me. I've supported several of them over the years. It's very gratifying to have people open their homes and invite you in to talk to their neighbors. I've listened to a lot of diverse people, and it's been a lot of fun. It's much more fun than I expected. I knew it would be hard work. I didn't realize the great people I would meet.
I'm just sort of thinking off the top of my head here, and if you were to speak to somebody who had not been in politics before, like yourself, who was contemplating going in, what would your advice be?
Do it. My advice would be to do what you can to give back to the community. And it's not as fearful as it seems, as long as you're genuine, I think.
Well, Mary, thank you so much for giving us some time to join you, visit you, and visit your party for that matter. I wish you every success going forward. And we hope this works out for a very positive experience.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it very much. Thank you.
So, Steve.
As trustee of the Mountain View Westminster School District, how does that feel?
It feels terrific, Claudia. I just feel so personally happy, and I'm also very happy that the work of our school district is being recognized.
Why continue doing what you're doing for the students of Mountain View?
Partly because the skill set that I have is real good for school board, but partly because the more you get into the work, the more interested you are. And I know so much about this work now that, and I say I learn something every day. I feel like I'd like to continue to contribute.
Now, there's been, and I used to cover the school district as a reporter here in Mountain View, and I've been a little bit detached in the last year. But hey, what are the new things that are, now that it's that you're going to be reelected, what are the new things that the residents of Mountain View can look forward to with the school district?
So one of the new things is continuing work on our school bonds. So our 2 middle schools are in the middle of their renovation work. And, if you drive by those schools, you see construction going on. It's going to be going on for the next 2 years. But already we have brand new classrooms and coming up next are new libraries and performing arts spaces, and we're going to finally get a track at Crittenden like we do at Graham, and then we're going to be starting the elementary schools next, and first up will be Castro schools.
You know, technology is so important for Silicon Valley. How is the school district bringing the schools up to date with technology, and how will you continue to help do that?
Well, that's a really good follow-up to what I wanted to say before. A big issue up and down the state and around the country is Common Core, and also in California, the local control funding formula. So part of the Common Core is more training for teachers on this new way of teaching, but some of it is technology and teaching the teachers how to use the technology, teaching the kids how to use the technology. The kids are going to be taking their tests all on computers now. So this is something that, you know, we need money from the state for, and we're going to be using some of our school district funds for.
I'm going to toss you a very weird question, but I saw this on Facebook the other day. Should kids still be learning how to write? If they're going to do everything on computers nowadays, should they even learn how to write script? And you're a trustee, and you help set the curriculum. I know some of it comes from the state, but I mean, we're moving towards a more computerized world. What do you think? I mean, that's
it's still
not to hold you to it.
No, it's still a very hot topic. Some parents are still very interested in learning cursive. I am very interested in at least having children learning handwriting, printing, because I think it's good for their fine motor skills. But you're right, going, into the 21st century, so much work is on computer now. It's keyboarding, and what parents are interested in is making sure their kids learn keyboarding so that they can not only do well in these tests, but they're going to be taking a lot of their tests and their high school tests and college tests needing how to type. So fast typing, just like it was in the 50s, is going to be good.
But not on typewriters, but
no,
on
but
keyboards.
yeah.
I actually, and even then, so many kids will have tablets.
Yes.
And possibly typing on a tablet that isn't even the same type of stenography, or not even stenography, but typing. It's fascinating. So, you're wearing your boa, so you're ready to celebrate?
I am. I'm ready to celebrate. I'm looking comfortably ahead in this race. I congratulate everybody who ran. One of the things that was great about this race is that, everybody ran a clean race. We all spent about the same amount of money. Nobody was campaigning negatively or sending out, all sorts of mailers. We were all, campaigning to the voters, and the voters made their choice.
And one of your former colleagues at the school district, Fiona Walter, is also looking like she's now going to be a trustee for the high school, Mountain View, Los Altos Union High School District. Union High School District, such a long acronym.
Is.
What do you say to her? And I mean, in her
well,
new
I am
endeavor?
thrilled for Fiona. I endorsed Fiona and I endorsed Joe, and it's looking like both of them are going to win. And Debbie Torok, who's the other incumbent in that race, is also an excellent trustee. We'll see how by the end of the night what those results are like. But I am thrilled for Fiona. I think she's going to do an excellent job for that school district, just like she did for our school district.
And personally, what are your goals for the school district? Is there one thing that you haven't done yet? You think that this fourth term you finally want to get the kids to do, the district to do?
Well, it's always the same story in Mountain View. It's helping the kids who are below grade level and helping the kids who are above grade level, and everybody in between. So, we're really looking at that in our Castro plan, which we will be discussing on Thursday and then voting in 2 weeks from Thursday, using very specific teaching methodology and outreach to parents to help low-income English language learner children, because they're about 40% of the children in our school district. And it's not just at Castro, it's at other schools as well. But then we also have kids who are above grade level. They're taking geometry in 8th grade. They are applying to top colleges. We want to prepare those kids too, and get all our kids into great colleges and great careers.
Ellen, thank you so much. Congratulations on your fourth term with the Mountain View Wisman School District. And we're going to turn it over to Jim, who's with Steve Nelson, a colleague of yours in the school district. Take it away, Jim.
Hey, thanks, Claudia. I'm here with Steve Nelson, one of the trustees for the Mountain View Wisman School District. Thank you very much for coming on the show, Steve. So, you're not running for election this time, all right? And you're a couple years into your term, right?
First term, right?
All right. So, how does it feel being being an observer of an election as opposed to running in an election?
It's interesting to see whether a particular election has any issues that can't come up. Like the city council election this time had sort of a particular item that came up that even though the candidates were similar on some issues, was sort of a dividing thing. So it's sort of interesting to see whether anything comes up in a school board election that ends up being that kind of an issue or not.
For this election, do you see any issues coming up for the Mountain View Wisman School District?
Well, there were a couple of issues that got brought up in the forum that got done with the League of Women Voters, but those are background ones. That there aren't ones that just came up this year. They've been out there for several years, and it's interesting. But I don't think there was a particular big item that divided the candidates.
All right. So would it be more than of a question of then style and temperament?
I think it would probably be that, and right now it looks like the two incumbents are winning.
Okay.
And particularly Ellen Wheeler has been on the board the longest time, and she really is very well known for putting a lot of time into it. I always joke at the meetings that when she talks about how many PTA meetings or talks she went to, I'm trying to meet her at least halfway.
Okay.
So I think she's well known for having showing up at all the different schools throughout the district rather than just the one closest to her.
So she does the footwork and burns through the shoe leather?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, you're 2 years into your term, right?
Uh-huh.
Okay. So what do you think has been the biggest challenge so far for the first 2 years of your term?
For me personally?
Yeah.
Actually learning how to work in dissent.
Okay.
Because there's the issue about if everybody agrees to agree,
right,
it's easy to agree.
Right.
If you're trying to change the direction of an organization that's been going a particular direction for 10 years, it's sometimes personally frustrating, and it can be a question of what your colleagues are going to accept as reasonable.
You mean persuading your colleagues to go in your direction?
Yeah.
Okay. And how's that work for you so far?
Well, it's working better now than originally.
Okay. But have you done anything differently?
Well, one of the things I'm trying to make sure that when I listen to people discussing, try to figure out what's the minimum I can get them to agree with.
Okay.
So we've had some changes in how we've organized our agendas.
Okay.
A little bit about making sure we put in what we're going to be doing for the next several months. That was something that hadn't been done before. And we formed a new committee with the help of Ellen and one of the other newer trustees, which is called the Board Facilities Committee.
Okay.
It looks at facilities issue and then reports it to the board. So that's something that hadn't been formally done before. And we may be getting into something called having to do with a budget kind of committee that will give us maybe the board long-term perspectives of some people in the community on how we ought to handle our reserves and stuff. So that's probably coming up in the next year, probably in January.
Steve, thank you very much for talking to us. And on to Christiana State, who I believe has Jim Neal. Take it away.
You didn't get the scoop? I know.
We are here live with KMVT's 2014 election coverage, and we are at the election party for Jim Neal, who is a candidate for City Council of the City of Mountain View. What are your thoughts about the election so far?
Well, so far the returns are still, still very early. So we'll have to see what develops in the next few hours. But I'm still very hopeful about my chances.
Great. Stay optimistic, please. Yes, wonderful. Now, you ran for this office 2 years ago.
Yes.
What was different this year?
This year, what was different is how much money came in from third-party interests. That was different. And as far as my campaign, I did a lot more walking this time. I visited over 8,000 households and wore out a pair of boots. And I got to talk to a lot of great people, and I got to really get a feel for what the people in Mountain View want this year.
And what did you learn new about Mountain View this year that you did not know about in your previous years?
Well, what I learned this year is that a lot of people keep their dogs off leash.
Any incidents you want to tell us about?
Yeah, actually, there were a couple of times that I was walking through some of the neighborhoods, and people were walking with their dog without the leash, and the dog actually started to try to chase me. So it was pretty scary at times. But I got to meet a lot of great people. And that's one thing that didn't surprise me is how many fantastic people live here in Mountain View, and how a lot of the people really want the same things. They want the affordable housing, they want solutions to the parking and traffic issues, and they want their neighborhoods to grow, but they want to keep the things they love about them. So,
what was the hardest thing about this campaign?
The hardest thing about this campaign was finding a way to get my message out. The only real avenue that I had was through online media, and then also going door to door. I found that trying to get my message out any other way was extremely difficult.
Very interesting. What is spurring your interest to continue to run for the city council position?
My friends. When I moved here 8 years ago, I really didn't know anybody. And I met a bunch of great people, and they invited me into their homes, and I got to know them and their children and where they worked and, and what they did day to day. And unfortunately, in the last few years, a lot of those friends have been moving away. I had 3 of my friends that had to leave town a month ago because their rent went from $3,400 to $4,800. I have another friend that was just evicted from her house a few days ago. She's a single mother with 2 teenage children that was evicted from her apartment so that the owner can redevelop it and charge more rent. So these are things that are affecting people that I know and people that I care about, and so I want to try to make a difference so that they can continue to live here and raise their families here.
And why city council versus, a planning committee, for example?
Well, planning committee was full when I applied. So I still I've applied there a couple of times, and I plan on, if I don't make it this time, maybe applying again. I do want to serve the city in some capacity, so a committee would be fine. A few years ago, when there were more open spots, it wasn't possible because of my work schedule. I had just gotten a new manager, and so that made it difficult. But now I'm in the position where I can do these things and apply more time to it. So I am looking to make some kind of a contribution.
So if this year you're not elected, you're going to continue to run, it seems to me.
I don't really know. It really depends on how I finish this time. It depends on how much support I get and what people are looking for in a candidate, and how effective my campaign has been. I really put a lot into this campaign. So if I don't finish well, then I'll definitely have to reconsider it, but I will still try to serve the city in some capacity. It might not be council. It may just be going to council meetings and being an advocate for residents. It might be on a committee. I don't know. I'd have to think about that.
Tell me about Milk Pail. Milk Pail is one of your top priorities on your platform. Tell me more about that.
Yeah, absolutely. The Milk Pail came to my attention when the San Antonio Center redevelopment plan came up. And what I found out is that the owner owns the land there. However, he doesn't own the parking spaces that are associated with that. And so because of that, when the center is redeveloped, there's a possibility that he may no longer have the number of spaces that he needs in order to stay in business. And that's a real concern to me, because when he developed it, the agreement that was in place allowed him to redevelop his property, acquiring extra spaces from someone else. it looks like that might not be a possibility for him in the future, which means that he would have to move or shut down his operations. And so I kind of think that kind of a catch-22 is unfair. And so that's why I've been going out of my way to try and help him, because he's a real part of the community. He's been there for 40 years.
That's a very interesting story. Thank you so much, and thank you for your time tonight. Good luck. I wish you the best. We would like to thank you as well, and we're here again, KMVT's 2014 election coverage. Back to you.
And we're back from the interview with Jim Neal. So, Claudia, what do you? So far, we're about a couple hours in. What do you think so far?
I know that I hear some singing back there, so somebody's celebrating. I think it's Ken Rosenberg celebrating his possible election to Mountain View City Council.
Okay.
I think he's in second place right now after Pat Showalter and Lenny Siegel look like the top three. And then, I mean, out of a very tight race, those are the three candidates that are going to lead the city until the next. A lot of interesting issues. So we'll see how it turns out.
Now, we got to meet a lot of the candidates and a lot of the politicians here. I mean, what have you thought of getting to talk to them?
Again, it's as a resident of Mountain View, they showed up today, is what I want to say. I knew it was going to be a tough decision just for myself to make. And when they showed up today and I spoke to them, I knew that, it was going to be tough for everybody else to make a choice. So I think that it's been a great election night coverage here at KMVT. The people we've had surprise guests. Ellen Wheeler wasn't going to be here,
right.
and she's now reelected to her fourth term. I just spoke to her. You spoke to Steve Nelson, who
that's right.
Currently on the board of the Mountain View Wisdom School District. So we know that there's people who care and I know they didn't want to be on television, but City Manager Dan Rich, Mountain View, was here. People are here because they care about the issues, and I'm happy that we were able to talk to them today.
Yeah, but did you find it interesting that the debate, at least here for Mountain View and probably the local cities, has been about how to deal with all the prosperity that we've been dealing with rather than all the poverty that other cities going through?
Good problem to have.
Right.
Definitely. It's a good problem to have.
All right.
So I know that we have a low crime rate.
Right.
There are poor, but we don't have we have resources for the poor. We don't have the number of poor that we have in other cities.
No one's riding in the streets of Mountain View? Is that what you're saying?
No.
Unless the Giants win the World Series again, right?
Or the 49ers, but I don't think it's their season this year.
Okay. Well, I think we're going to come back. We're going to take a short break, and then we'll be back with more election fun.
KMVT would like to thank our election night sponsors. Morocco's Restaurant, located in downtown Mountain View. Morocco's provides a full dining experience with a magical and exotic atmosphere. And TVU for providing live coverage capabilities for our remote reports.
KMVT15 has been serving the community since the late 70s and became a nonprofit community media center in the early 80s, bringing you local television programming from local volunteers. KMVT Community Media is located right here in the heart of Silicon Valley. We provide hands-on training, equipment, and airtime to our users to build community and empowerment through the expression of media. Our youth camps support hundreds of students yearly and allow their voices to be heard. KMVT has well over 100 volunteers of all ages who come into our studio each and every month to produce local programming. Programming ranges from talk shows on community issues, cooking shows, local artists, magazine news programming, and live entertainment, and much, much more. We cover over 100 sporting events, including football, softball, baseball, volleyball, and basketball. We also cover local events like the Art and Wine Festival, Veterans Memorial Day, and the Spring Parade. KMVT provides coverage of local elections, debates, and candidate statements. We offer something for everyone, whether you're a youth, adult, senior, a nonprofit business, or even a for-profit business. So why is KMVT important? Because it's programming like this that brings a community together. We also provide full hands-on training for all ages in studio production and fieldwork, graphics, editing, and an understanding of media in a world surrounded by noise. So we ask the next time you turn on your television or you want to support an important cause, think KMVT15, your local community television station, bringing the community together through all forms of media. Support community media and television today.
And we're back, and I'm here with Dana Burnett, a candidate for the Mountain View Los Altos High School District. Did I get that? Did I get it all right?
Pretty close. Dana Burnett, though. It's a little slightly.
Gosh, sorry about that.
No worries, no worries.
But anyways, so is this your first time running?
It is.
All right. So what motivated you to run?
Well, I originally got into the race because of the program, the teen parent program that was cut, and that's what began my interest in the district. And as I began looking more into some of the data and statistics, I thought, well, I maybe could make a difference here.
Okay, all right. And so, so this is your first time running. Now that you've had a campaign under your belt, looking back on it, what have you learned at least from the campaign?
I learned a little bit about how much of it is people-to-people contact and really reaching out, and probably could have done more of that.
Right.
And learned that maybe mailers are a not so great of investment in terms of how to spend your money, and just as much more complicated than I ever thought it was. A huge learning curve in terms of learning how to present myself and think about my thoughts and be concise.
Okay, so basically more face-to-face and less of the impersonal mailers?
That's right. That's right.
But let's see here. So, I mean, when you did talk to potential voters face-to-face, what did you find was their biggest concern?
Well, the point I was pursuing was looking at our kids that are less advantaged economically, and the kids that are kind of struggling more. And the people I talked to that were interested in my race were largely interested in that same group of kids, our Latino children, our kids that are lower income, and trying to figure out how we improve outcomes for them.
And what would your approach be to improve outcomes for them?
So I think we need to look at more closely what has worked and what hasn't worked. There's been a lot of good efforts in the district to improve those outcomes, and there has been improvement, but I think we've kind of plateaued, and so we need to figure out what we haven't really, I don't know that we've teased the data apart enough to figure out what actually were the levers that we want to pull to do better.
You mean get to the next level?
Yes, to get to the next level. But which strategies really were the strategies that made the difference? And I think we need to try to figure that out a little bit more. I suspect programs like the AVID program, which is having students in small cohorts working together with specialized attention, is one of the big levers that really makes a difference for those students.
But you're still basically trying to figure out to get what it takes to get
I think the district needs to figure it out. The data hasn't been looked at that way.
But have you figured it out?
Well, I have my hypotheses, but we'd have to figure out what would really work. I mean, I have suspicions about what I think works, but the data hasn't been teased apart in a way to really look at which programs are showing the most improvement and the best progress for the youth.
Okay. And let's see here. If you do win, what's the first thing you would do if you could do it without any opposition?
I think I would want to see like a multiplication of the AVID program in the schools, and so more students are working in smaller groups, especially of our low-income students. So they're getting more specialized attention and in a more focused way. AVID's designed only for the kids that are already showing promise, and I think we have to see the promise in every child.
Okay, awesome. Hey, Dana, thank you for talking to us.
Thank you so much. I appreciate the time.
Let's go to Claudia with Ken Rosenberg and friends.
Where do you want me?
Right there.
Oh.
Ken, you seem to be assured a seat in the city council this year. How are you feeling?
Well, I'm feeling very good. It's the results in so far are 2 precincts out of 38, so it's a long way to make that determination.
Okay. Well, we have a lovely woman, young lady here with you. You want to introduce her?
Sure. So around town, a lot of people know that I do many things in Mountain View. One of the things that I do is I'm on the board of Peninsula Youth Theater, Mountain View's Peninsula Youth Theater. So my daughter Jordan is an actor in PYT, and I would go and pick her up from rehearsal, and it got to be a little thing among some of the other actors there that as soon as somebody would see me, somebody would shout out, "Vote for Ken! Vote for Ken!" And then it would just kind of resonate around the studio, so it was hilarious. Anyway, in celebration of tonight, some of them have come here tonight to be here in the studio. and we're putting them on the spot. Maybe they'll sing and promote their next show.
Let's give her the mic first. I have a quick question. Jordan, your dad might be the new city council. What was it like being a daughter of a candidate and then now being a daughter possibly of a council member?
It's been really exciting. There's been a lot of commotion sort of at my house sometimes when he comes home. We're like, hey, how was the thing tonight? And he'll tell stuff and I have no idea what happened, but it sounds cool. Yeah.
Well, now he'll have interesting things to share, as you do every night when you share your rehearsal stories, I'm sure. But now you get to watch him at city council just as many times as he's watched you at theater.
Hopefully.
Jordan, you have some friends here with you?
Yeah.
You want to walk over and introduce them and tell us what they're going to do?
So these are some of my friends from PYT. We're in an upcoming show at PYT, Oklahoma, Rogers and Hammerstein's Oklahoma. It performs at the Mountain View Center for Performing Arts on November 15th, and everybody should come see it because it's going to be awesome.
I'm going to pass one more mic over so you guys can have one in the back.
You can.
And let's see whenever you guys are ready.
Ready? Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Oklahoma, where the wind comes sweeping down the plain, where the waving wheat can sure smell sweet when the wind comes right behind the rain. Oklahoma, every night, my honey lamb and I, every night we sit alone and talk and watch a hawk making lazy circles in the sky.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ken. This is for you.
This is what. Now you can see why we like PYT so much. It's just so fun.
So is this your cheering section when you possibly win tonight?
Yes. Why not? I don't know if they're going to be awake though when the final results come in.
Well, it's a very tight race. There was a lot of. I mean, what do you think? I mean, I know you spoke to Jim earlier, and you're still not even convinced yourself that only 2 polls showing, but it's a tight race.
It should be tight. There's 9 candidates. The results are going to be very dispersed among the 9. There is a clear leader right now with Pat Showalter. I was in second place last I looked. So right now it's going to be interesting to see if Lisa Matichak can come out of 4th place and end up in 3rd or even 2nd. So I'm a little nervous still. I'll believe it when it's final, but I feel good and confident so far.
Well, no, you brought your party here to KMVT, so I know the station's very excited to have you. We're very excited to have Mountain View's PYT here and their upcoming show, Oklahoma, so everybody in Mountain View should go support them and should continue supporting local politics. I mean, all politics is local. I know we care about the national election as much as we care about the state propositions, but everything, local politics is where it's at.
Yes. And I'll put one more plug in for PYT.
There you go.
Cheapest and best date night in Mountain View.
I got to find a date. Anybody? Ken? I can't go to PYT without a date.
You can.
I could.
But come with a friend if you like.
Well, thank you everyone for joining us tonight for KMVT's live election night coverage. And now over to a public service announcement.
KMVT would like to thank our election night sponsors. Morocco's Restaurant, located in downtown Mountain View. Morocco's provides a full dining experience with a magical and exotic atmosphere. And TVU, for providing live coverage capabilities for our remote reports.
Lazy bones, loafing through the day. You always seem to find the easy way, moving like you're rolling gray. Never heard a word I say.
All over America, entire families are backsliding. We're no longer just sedentary, we're stationary, and that's bad news for your bones. At any age, bones need weight-bearing activity to grow strong and stay strong. So go outside, take the steps, play with the dog. Just get up, get out, get moving.
Never keep your bones that way. Never heard a word I say.
A public service message from the American Academy of Orthopedic Surgeons.
KMVT15 is your community media center. We are here to provide hands-on training, equipment, and resources to you to express your voice over many distribution platforms. Since 1982, KMVT15 has been providing media resources to the community. Yearly, we train over 300 youth through our video camps. Hundreds of scouts come yearly to take tours and learn about media in order to earn their journalism badges. We offer classes in all areas of media, from video to editing, photography, graphics, video chats, and much more. Training can also be done on location. KMVT15 has a community message board that runs daily, providing information to the community about upcoming events. We also provide tools to nonprofits to create dynamic video messaging quickly with an online system. We offer sponsorship opportunities to businesses to support our efforts in creating local and educational programs, from high school and middle school sports to Project Connect, a digital media learning initiative. KMVT15 provides an array of innovative media production services to create compelling media for businesses, nonprofits, and individuals. By hiring our professional staff, you are helping us to support our mission to provide resources and educational opportunities to the community. KMVT15 works with schools to provide digital literacy training for teachers, students, and parents. We provide after-school opportunities like MV Youth Productions, which gives students hands-on digital video and team-building skills. KMVT15 provides coverage of graduations, sports, and local arts. KMVT15 brings you local coverage from government meetings and elections to ribbon cuttings and groundbreakings. KMVT15 is your distribution resource over the air, online, and via streaming. We have a potential viewership of over 400,000 throughout the entire Bay Area via Comcast Channel 15 and AT&T UVerse Channel 99. We also have a strong viewership online, reaching millions on YouTube, and a Roku channel that streams our content and has a potential reach of over 5 million viewers. So when you think of KMVT15, remember we have a full production facility, production truck, and an award-winning staff here to support your needs.
And I'm back, and welcome back. I'm here with Greg Ugnonks, and Greg. So, what's your reaction to the airplane flying overhead?
It's a C-130 flying over.
Go to Moffett Field.
Moffett Field.
That's right. You used to be in the Air Force, right? You know these things.
Army. I jumped out of C-130.
So. Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
So, anyway, what's your reaction to the initial poll results?
Well, a little disappointing. I mean, but they're preliminary. We'll see how it goes later in the evening. But it's very close. It's pretty close. Just a few percentage points. Of course, the third place is the point in contention here, and it's close.
Yeah,
it's close.
I forget what percentage of the precincts have been counted so far.
I've heard it's only 2 precincts have actually come in.
And so how many more we got to go?
I don't know, 37 or something like that, or whatever.
Yeah, so you never know, right? It might be.
No, a lot of things could change.
It might be the neighborhood where your entire family lives that hasn't been counted yet, right?
Yeah, it could be. Who knows? But it's still very close, so things could change quite readily over the course of the evening. So we'll see what happens.
All right. Now I know you compete. You were running against 8 other people, but was it one of those things when you look back on this campaign? That was a relatively clean, civil campaign.
Yes, I think it was. I think we've each of us have grown to respect each other, and I think we've come away as friends. We go to a lot of these forums and events like this, and we get to know each other pretty well, and it's they're good people. They're good people.
Okay, so I mean, you might disagree on certain issues, but you don't. It's nothing personal, right?
Oh no, I mean we all have differences of opinion. We all have different ways of trying to get to the same place in some cases. So it's gratifying to see this many, I'd say, quality people trying to run for office. It's pretty gratifying.
I'm always kind of curious. Let me ask you a more esoteric question. In late 1960s, Detroit was considered per capita the wealthiest city in the world. Now it's bankrupt.
Yes.
Right. Did you ever fear that something like that might happen to, say, Mountain View?
Well, I grew up in Detroit,
right,
and I was there in the '60s, and I saw as they started to go over the cliff,
right.
And it took a long time to get there, but it is amazing to see a city of that caliber and of that size implode, and it definitely has done that. And could it happen here? Probably not, but you never know. I mean, probably, I would imagine there were people in Detroit in the 1950s and 60s and saying, Detroit's going to be the number 1, number 2 city in the country in another 20 years. That didn't happen for a lot of, like I say, a lot of different reasons. But here we're almost the economic center of the United States.
Right.
And even in some cases, you could say the world. And could that go downhill? Sure, it could.
Right.
We could make a number of bad decisions politically over the next 10, 20 years, and we could get on a different trajectory, and things may not work out as well as they could. So it's possible, sure.
What do you think what do you think Mountain View, at least from the government perspective, what do you think Mountain View city government needs to do to avoid having Detroit happen to it?
Yes, we're getting into a situation where we're driving out the lower income working families. They can't live in the area. They have to commute from greater and greater distances. But even more scary about the whole thing is we're starting to lose our younger generation. The people that work at Google, people who work at
like LinkedIn,
and so forth, are getting to the point where they can't afford to live here for more than a few years. They get married, they have kids, they want to go to a more how should I say it, expansive housing situation. There's just no way.
So Mountain View's kind of turning into a San Francisco to some extent?
To some extent. I mean, and how is it going to play out in the next 10 or 20 years? That's a good question, because that could set the trajectory downward, just like we saw in Detroit. But there's a lot of other factors that went into that fiasco. We're a long way from there. And we've got the potential of making some very unique things here and some very attractive things here, and we've got to make the right decisions here in the next 5, 10, 20 years.
All right. So I think I have about a minute left. So let me throw another weird question at you. Now, after starting tomorrow, the election's over.
Yep.
There are all these election signs all over the place. Who cleans them up?
We do. Basically, the campaigns that put them out have the responsibility to go around and picking them up. I have to remember where they all are, so that's going to be the tough part.
And you marked them all down where you put them, right?
Well, yeah, but some of them I think have moved.
Gotcha.
So, yeah, it's going to be a job for the next week or so to go around and clean up all this stuff.
All right. Hey, Greg, thanks a lot for talking to me again.
Appreciate it. Great fun.
And back to Claudia, who's with Pat Showalter.
All right.
Pat, congratulations. You look like the forerunner in the city council race here in Mountain View. How are you feeling? You're here with a bunch of supporters. I mean, we spoke earlier. How are you feeling right now?
Well, I'm really excited, and I hope that this lead holds. It's just fabulous.
Can you introduce some people? I know you have some family members here.
Yeah, sure. This is my husband, Steve, and it's his birthday.
Happy
birthday, Steve. This is my daughter, Abby. And
I'm sure enough that I can bend
She's
down.
been the Facebook and website lead for quite some time on this campaign. And my friend Carol, she's been my campaign manager. And my friend Chris, she's my oldest friend in Mountain View. She helps me get everything done. And then Theta is a new friend from the Parks and Rec Commission. And then these are some new friends from Google who have really helped me with this campaign. I didn't know them before, and they came up and introduced me early in the campaign and said they wanted to help, and they've been an immense help. So it's been great. Deb and Mary and Anna.
Well, no, it's a big city, a lot of canvassing, so I'm sure that every little bit of help in the volunteerism sure worked. I know you were mentioning about how your brother and trying to get him to help out, and you either help now or you help again in 2 years, and would you rather help in 4 years? So.
Very motivational.
Great story. So, it's exciting. It must be so exciting. I mean, again, I know that we're having trouble connecting to and refreshing the Board of Elections site, but if it holds, I mean, this is...
It's really exciting.
Did you always want to be a city council member? I know you work in environmental law. You work at the
Santa Clara Valley Water District.
The water district. So you're already a public servant, but working for your community is completely different.
Well, I was on the Planning Commission for 9 years, and I just was fascinated by that. I really enjoyed being involved, and I loved solving all the problems, or working on the problems, and being a part of trying to build new things for the city. And so I have wanted to do this for a long time. But, I think you have to wait in your life when things are ripe. And this was a good time for me in terms of my job and in terms of my kids being a little older. And also because now there are a lot of people who feel that housing is very important and building more housing is very important. And when I was on the Planning Commission, there wasn't as strong a feeling along those lines. So I felt like I should, when this issue came back with such strength, I felt like this was a good time for me to jump in.
Well, you have a lot of people here who have supported you and supported your goals. I believe there's a precise plan being voted on coming up in December.
There's 3 precise plans that are being voted on. Yeah.
So you'll be very busy. When does if elected and appointed, you start in January?
Yes.
Okay. So do you have any influence on the current council for the 3 precise plans that are being voted on? Maybe.
Maybe. That's a good question. It's still their gig.
It's still their gig.
But I'm sure that they will be very concerned about what people are thinking and what they've said with this election. I can't imagine that they would ignore that. I'm sure they will take that into serious consideration, as they have before.
Yeah. So I believe we have new poll results coming in. So we're going to take it over. We're going to take it over to the poll results.
Well, let's see what it says.
KMVT would like to thank our election night sponsors. Morocco's Restaurant, located in downtown Mountain View. Morocco's provides a full dining experience with a magical and exotic atmosphere. And TVU for providing live coverage capabilities for our remote reports.
KMVT15 has been serving the community since the late 70s and became a nonprofit community media center in the early 80s, bringing you local television programming from local volunteers. KMVT Community Media is located right here in the heart of Silicon Valley. We provide hands-on training, equipment, and airtime to our users to build community and empowerment through the expression of media. Our youth camps support hundreds of students yearly and allow their voices to be heard. KMVT has well over 100 volunteers of all ages who come into our studio each and every month to produce local programming. Programming ranges from talk shows on community issues, cooking shows, local artists, magazine news programming, and live entertainment, and much, much more. We cover over 100 sporting events, including football, softball, baseball, volleyball, and basketball. We also cover local events like the Art and Wine Festival, Veterans Memorial Day, and the Spring Parade. KMVT provides coverage of local elections, debates, and candidate statements. We offer something for everyone, whether you're a youth, adult, senior, a nonprofit business, or even a for-profit business. So why is KMVT important? Because it's programming like this that brings a community together. We also provide full hands-on training for all ages in studio production and field work, graphics, editing, and an understanding of media in a world surrounded by noise. So we ask the next time you turn on your television or you want to support an important cause, think KMVT15, your local community television station, bringing the community together through all forms of media. Support community media and television today.
And we're back. We're at the end of getting towards the end of our live coverage of KMVT's 2014 election local coverage. Claudia, have you any closing remarks?
It's been a long night, but I want to, I forgot earlier, thank Alicia Crank, who helped with the City Council debate about a month ago. And before that, Oscar Garcia, who I spoke with, who also helped with the very first City Council debate here in Mountain View. But Alicia, we miss you. Come back to Mountain View.
Right. Right. So I want to at least give one shout out to the host of KMVT's show, The Right Side, Chris Pareja, who's running for City Council in the city of Livermore. Best of luck to you, Chris. I'd also like to thank the sponsors of this coverage and all the candidates and all the people that showed up to our live coverage. Thank you again for showing up, and best of luck to all of you in the elections. You're all winners in my book. So.
And you all care about the city, so that's the most important thing.
That's right. The city of Mountain View wins because you guys all participate. You know, right? Because no one's riding in the streets of Mountain View, right?
No.
Right? You're not riding the streets of Mountain View, right?
No.
After this election?
Like I said, all politics is local.
Right?
Think local.
We're here at what looks to be a Google Fitness Center, and we're actually going to find...
This is what matters. I know you've been federal Senate elections, but it's people like Pat and Brian and Paul and Greg and everybody who's here is,
But I like these people.
Yeah, exactly. These are the people who make things happen every day.
Besides, I know where some of these people live, so right? and you will too.
I do too. Actually, no, it's true. We do know where they live, and if we, and if again, as our council members, water district, elected officials, school board trustees, we can ask them questions. We can stop them at the grocery store. I don't see my congressperson here every day.
You don't?
I don't. So
you don't see Anna Issue at the Walmart?
No.
I see your picture on Facebook all the time.
Yeah. But it's local politics, so I'm very happy to have participated tonight, and I continue to want to stay involved.
Yep. And that's the message to all you. Stay involved, and thank you for watching. And well, don't forget to vote for the next and the next.
See you here in 2 years. I don't know who the hell is Paul. I'm like pointing at somebody.
Similar product at home, and then our impact extends beyond the campus, and people take that back to the community when they see, hey, that low flow product really worked.
Yeah, we're going to continue our tour here at the Google campus, so stay tuned.
Contrary to popular belief, longer showers will not make you more clean, and they won't make you very popular at home. What's worse, long showers do waste a lot of water. But we can turn back the clock. Shorten your shower by just 5 minutes and save 15 gallons every time. A low-flow shower head saves even more. So let's keep the showers and the singing to a minimum.
There's a lot of landscaping going on here at the Google complex in Mountain View, and it wouldn't be Google if they weren't having some sort of technological advanced system and trying to figure out where to irrigate and when to irrigate. So Drew's going to tell us a little bit about this hydro point system here that actually does something like that.
Yeah, so this boring looking column here actually has a lot of really cool stuff going on inside of it. So this is an instance where Google's able to leverage some of the amazing advancements in technology that some of the external partners in the water resource industry and the irrigation industry have put a lot of R&D into. And we just get to be the end user who gets to put it into action. So our landscaping company that we partner with here on site recommended this about 2 years ago, saying that, hey, there's a lot more we can do when it comes to irrigation, and we can get really smart with the help of HydroPoint and the weather track system. So basically, it's a networked controller. So we have these controllers that are at all of our own properties here throughout the Mountain View area. And they tie back to a central weather track system that gets a daily download of weather information from Moffett Field, just located right on the other side of, just right over that way. So we get a local, really granular view of the weather in this area here. It's going to tell us about average temperatures, what the sun conditions are like this time of year. We also have hygrometers throughout the campus that'll let us know how much moisture content's in the soil. And all that feeds back into the HydroPoint system here, and then it optimizes our water use throughout the campus. It's also zoned, so it knows if it's watering an area that's grass, or it's watering an area that might be trees that need different types of watering conditions. So, and it takes that information, and we're able to then apply parameters to that, where we say, all right, this is what you think is the minimum to serve that area. And we kind of purposely dial it back even more, saying, how lean can we go to be even more efficient and have that balance of supporting our environment, but being as lean with our water resources as possible. So it's pretty cool technology in a boring container.
Yeah, so do you guys also have some sort of like drip irrigation and different types of irrigation systems? Or is it just one particular type?
Yes, we have various irrigation solutions depending on the type of plant material or the type of area that we're watering. So some of the area you saw out front when we started our tour, where we'd transform turf into plantings, we'll do point-to-point irrigation in those locations. And then areas where we do still have turf, this turf happens to be watered by recycled water, we'll use rotor heads, which are really efficient. Compared to a typical spray head, the rotor head will use about 30% less water, and you have less of the atmospheric loss with a rotor type head.
Okay. Is there anything else we should know about landscaping? Is the majority of it water through recycled water, or?
So it's a mix, and that's tough for customers that are really trying to be really sustainable. If they have access to recycled water, it's an amazing resource, but it's just not available for as many customers to really take advantage of it. So hopefully through this environment here, where we're able to utilize recycled water, we can really show how it works, how it can be a part of your conservation strategy. And as it expands, other customers can hopefully follow our lead and other companies like us that have that resource and put it into play. And water that was formerly not being utilized is now going to offset potable water consumption.
Right. Well, it's great to know that Google is doing their part in conserving water and all their landscaping needs. Definitely, we all have to conserve water, and Google is no exception. So thank you so much for that.
Yeah, thanks for coming out. I appreciate it. Yeah, thank you.
I think it reinforced the importance of this purification center as an important resource and learning facility for us that helps us really use the technology as we can use it to recharge and provide a direct water supply for our county.
I think it's really critical for our valley to have this kind of technology, and I hope in the next few years we do get to move it to the potable water use. I mean, with the 3 years of the significant drought that we have, we need to use every tool that we have in the box to provide water for our valley.
This is the most forward-looking thing we could possibly have. We've got to have it in order to have Silicon Valley be viable for the future. So recycled water is just going to be part of our daily life.
This facility is really the state of the art and something that is going to be a reference point for other communities throughout the country, if not the world.
Currently, about 5% of our water supply in Santa Clara County is from recycled water. That's about 6.5 billion gallons a year. And our board has directed us to, by 2025, double that. And this facility is one of those that's going to get us there. This is a key component that will help us reach this goal. It's the Silicon Valley Advanced Water Purification Center.
If I didn't find golf, I honestly wouldn't know what I would do, because golf is basically half my life. I'm 16 right now, and I've been doing it since I was 8. So if I didn't have golf, I don't know what I would be doing.
Young people are our future. It's just that simple. Many of our young people need help. They need support, they need help, they need direction. And golf is a great venue to do that.
Essentially, Youth on Course is all about access. We provide access to golf courses. We're also about providing access for youth to job opportunities and also higher education.
Golf, it's very mental, and I like how it would challenge me. Not only my physical game, but I would have to mentally get prepared through a bad shot.
I've been a Youth on Course member for 4 years. Golf has taught me about responsibility.
To have honesty when you play.
Get out and get involved with these programs, and especially Youth on Course.
I'm a software developer, living and working right here in Mountain View.
I've got 3 kids. 2 are great at sports, and my youngest is into music.
Life is pretty good. Got a great family, love my job.
I'm a grandmother, lucky to have my grandkids so close by.
I'm a Stanford grad. I had a bad car accident and been out of the hospital for years. I lost my job, my home, and live out of my car.
I am 88 years old and had 3 heart attacks. I live alone with no one to care for me.
I have 2 kids. My husband walked out on us. I got injured at my job, and now I can't pay the rent.
I'm a father of 4, working 2 jobs, and still there's only $300 left to feed and clothe my family.
Could this be you?
Be you?
Be you?
Be you?
Be me?
It could be any of us at any time.
Community Services Agency of Mountain View and Los Altos is committed to helping people right here in our community.
Whoever they are and whatever their situation.
CSA provides emergency assistance,
a senior lunch program,
help for the homeless,
and gifts for the holidays. CSA cares, won't you?
Can I go to the sleepover?
Lucy, I want you to promise me something. If there's any drinking, I want you to say, no thanks, not my thing.
Mom.
I promise you, your real friends won't care. Deal?
I promise, Mom.
They really do hear you.
Did you pack your toothbrush?
For tips on how to start the talk, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov. A public service message from the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration.
Now, everything you were going to do someday is on the calendar. Introducing a new day of the week. Someday. Want to retire someday? You'll want a My Social Security account to help you get ready. Get yours at socialsecurity.gov.
Hi, my name is Yumi, and you're watching KMVT.
Space Cities is a show about astronomy, space exploration, and scientific phenomena. Today's topic is alchemy and aliens. I'm your host, Michael Levy, and today's guest is Zareth Shahara.
Oh, Michael.
Good
Thank
afternoon.
you for having me.
Zareth, you've had a multitude of what would be considered paranormal experiences. You started off on the East Coast, being born in Philadelphia, and you have made your way out to the West Coast. Tell me about some of those experiences.
Well, I guess it started early on in life with being able to, you could say, make predictions about where my life was headed. And I told my mother at around 4 years of age that one day I was going to be working in Hollywood. I'd seen the sign on television and told her that. And about 24 years later, I was working on a film set. My mother came and visited, and she said, "Do you remember telling me when you were a child?" I said, "Yes, I do." And so here we are. But, you know, for me, started out in an area of surrounding Philadelphia that are not, it's not conducive to spiritual and consciousness growth, if you will. So for me, I was experiencing these things that I kind of knew were out of the norm. I never heard other people talk about them. And so I just knew one day I'd be coming to California. I would watch television shows and go, "That's California." It was as if I already knew the place before I got here. But how I was going to get here is where the real journey began. And so for me, it started out, we were living in Atlantic City, in that area, when I was 17. And I went into high-rise construction, and I was building a lot of the casinos. I worked on about 10 of them. And then I decided I was going to work inside of them. And so I became a casino dealer. And I got really good at it. So good at helping customers win that they let me go from 4 of them, which was just par for the course for me. I knew this wasn't going to be my career. But I had a friend who offered me a job on a commercial fishing vessel. And so I had a very mystical experience that made the decision for me. And I wound up out there. And for 4 years, I was on the East Coast fishing and had the opportunity to go all the way through Panama, all the way up to Alaska with one vessel. So I stayed on that boat, and we went to Alaska. And when I got there, I wasn't making the money that I was promised. So I automatically started looking for something else. But while I'm there, I realized, I was told early on, that if you have a pulse, you have a job up here. So I flew out to Dutch Harbor, and I wound up becoming a king crabber. And, you know, when you're out there and you are in that profession, and they tell you it's the most dangerous job in the world, I just, basically you feel like you're beating the odds every time you come back to the dock. And you start to feel a little bigger, a little more invincible, and a little more bulletproof, until about 4 years later. And so 4 years into it, I was in the Bering Sea in January, opilio fishing, when our vessel got hit with 3 rogue waves, one right after the other. And on the first one, I got washed over. And I was under the vessel. And how I'm still here today, even talking to you about this, is absolutely nothing short of miraculous. Everybody on the crew agreed. I just beat the ultimate odds going into the Bering Sea in January at night. You don't come back. And so I did. They got me back on board, and I made a decision. Maybe dying wasn't a good way of making a living. So I wound up going down to Seattle and spent time with my girlfriend. We had 2 places at the time. You make a lot of money when you're doing it. And she got called on a film set to do hair and makeup. And so I went and visited, and I was blown away with how it all works behind the scenes, you know. And I said, this is what I want to do. And that had been maybe the story of my life constantly, was I would say, I want to do this, I would do it. So just through determination, you know, that dogged nature that I have in me, and you've known me for a couple of decades now, once I get on something, I don't get off it. And so I became a stagehand. And then I worked on location for a couple of years And it wound up being over 10 years, about 25 feature films, television shows, commercials, and got to see how it all works. And so basically, though, as this was occurring, the drive for me to discover the truth about life and about all of this began when I was baptized in the Bering Sea, you would say at night, and brought back out and realized that I had not only beaten the odds, but it made me think about, I lost 40 friends in 4 years up there. And I lost about 40 on the East Coast too, but on a vessel that goes down on the East Coast in the fishery that I was in, 15 guys die at one time. In king crabbing, it's 4 to 5 guys per vessel. So more boats went down while I was up there than happened on the East Coast. And you come away from it thinking, why me? Why did I survive? I knew so many people who were way more dynamic than me in character, and I thought were just those atypical Alaska men who, you know, should have, by all accounts, survived anything. Being dropped off in the middle of nowhere. These guys were like that. They were, in my eyes, larger than life, just like Alaska itself. And so, you know, going from deckhand to stagehand, I had a lot of time to think while I was in that hotel room at nights. And I worked on a film called Fearless. And it was, the basic premise of the film was, Jeff Bridges survives a plane crash while his best friend, who was way more dynamic, had the perfect life and everything seated right next to him. He dies in the crash. So the character of Jeff's goes crazy, insane, trying to figure out why it is in the larger picture of things that he survived. And I think in my case, what I came to was there's still something I'm supposed to be doing. I'm not sure what it is, but maybe it's better that I don't know. Maybe I would have said no to that agreement. But I think when we all incarnate, I've gotten to the point where I realize we all have dignity, we all have purpose. And distinctions are only things that keep you from thinking that you're more special than somebody else. So I never thought I was, but you know me, when it comes to having inner dialogue, I rarely keep it within. So that when I was discovering a lot of these things over the years, I remember you being there and I would bounce it off of you. And you were my sounding board, because a lot of what I was discovering had to do with history, religion, politics, and this was all from just asking, who am I, why am I here? And I kept getting led into these different areas for periods of time. So it was as if I was being guided, and I know I've been guided because over the years I've heard a voice occasionally tell me, move, and then something would hit the deck.
You've always been interested in linguistics.
Yeah.
And linguistics in many, many respects has brought you to understandings that you'll say are the results of alchemy, of a person being able to envision a future for themselves and forge that in a constructive manner. Could you expound upon that a little bit?
Sure. Well, first, let's just define alchemy. And it's succinctly, simply put as speeding up nature and changing one thing into something else. And if that something else wasn't already in that one thing, it wouldn't occur anyway. So in other words, I was going through transmutation myself. I was coming to discover who I really was. And it's really more of an uncovering of anything, because in my case, I had to stop defining myself as this body. I had to start thinking, who is the observer inside? Because alchemy, if it teaches you one thing, it teaches you the art of manifestation, how to put your intention into whatever experiment or project you're working on.
The filling of Socrates' cup, in other words.
Oh, yeah. And then I also had to play with Plato's cave. What's reality? You know, what is my reality? And so alchemy, if you read the stories of the alchemists, which is what I did before I ever got into the actual art or physical experimentation, I wanted to make sure I knew inherently this was a sacred science. And, you know, what is it about man? There's one fever we've never been able to cure, and it's gold fever. And so going back to the Bible, you have 417 mentions of gold in the King James Bible. And so what is it about gold? And that's what eventually led me from transmutation into the story of the Anunnaki, as they say, which is starting to really become part of the zeitgeist. People are asking the question, who are these guys? In other words, if the Sumerian culture, which was recording their events 3,000 years before we get the Hebrew version, and the stories are very similar, and what was the connection? So it had to be through linguistics. It had to be, where did the language begin for us? If they say that the first civilization popped up out of nowhere in the Fertile Crescent between the Tigris and Euphrates, then what language were they speaking? I wanted to know what they were really thinking. So basically, the recorded texts or the scrolls that they found, and there's hundreds of thousands of them, recording everything from, you know, their history, their mythology, and their daily routines in life. So they were real chroniclers, like we were as well. They were very plugged in, you know. And I think in some ways they knew a lot more than we did about what's going on around us now. First of all, they had no media. So how did they communicate? They communicated through these scrolls. And the scrolls translated would be from 2-letter syllables to 3-letter syllables, to the point where now we're describing words by adding an H in our transliteration, by adding an H. Like
what was the significance?
Abram. Well, Abram, for instance, was an ABR. He was a citizen of the Fertile Crescent, in what they called E.DIN in some texts, or the abode of the righteous ones. And that's the interpretation we got out of that, was that it's very similar to the Eden of the Bible, which came later. But the stories are very similar. There was a flood, there was a cataclysm. Some survived, some didn't. The name that we know of biblically as Noah was actually called Utnapishtim in the earliest text, and then became Zayasudra later on. And we see these clues in cultures all around the world that there was an event, there was a flood, there was something that occurred. And now that we have become like students of astrology, and, you know, again, because we have Hubble and other technologies that can send us out visually into space, but we also have other technologies which are telling us what else is out in the field. What we see in 3D is not always just what we're perceiving. And a lot of that's based on belief systems. So the language was the expression of the belief system. So when I got to, you know, Sanskrit and Aramaic, it just so happened that things unfolded in such a way that I would meet someone who was an expert in languages. And for me, it was a man named Father Charles Moore, who intrigued me in ways I can't describe, because at the time I was studying the Sumerian culture, the Anunnaki, the story of these gods who came to Earth and, according to their text, created mankind as servants. And they were also, the story said that they came to Earth looking for gold. And the reason being is they